All right. Hello, hello, hello. How is everyone? How is everyone? What do I have another window? I even closed one window and thought I could stop the second, but no, I had another secret window open. How is everyone this evening? Man, oh man. Um, so I want to talk about the comet. And it's not that I want to, people are like, oh, you're going to be talking about Comet as a Vulcan again. Um, and I don't necessarily want to talk about that, but I want to talk about um, the whole purpose. Like, what is this purpose of this comet? I mean, fundamentally, and I mean in a thematic sense, in a literary sense, in a functionally sense. Like, what is the point of the comet, and what is it? Um, because when we look at our own world, um, comets have been a very important part of history, and the the most famous is probably 1066, before the Norman invasion. The Halley's Comet appeared, and probably the second most famous is when Julius Caesar was murdered. A comet appeared in the sky as well, and in fact, with him, it was so much that they claimed he was divine, and that comet would appear on coinage and all sorts of shit. And so in our society, like, comets are very, very important historically. Um, at least the myth surrounding them are. And so, but of course, in our world today, in a modern sense, we kind of all accept that it's all bullshit. Like, they mean nothing. Like, comets don't mean anything. Like, they're a chunk of ice flying through space that happens to get close to Earth, and primitive man, and I'm saying primitive because this is what humans thought before, a few hundred years ago, before we even realized what comets were. They took them as some sort of omen, usually an ill omen, but not always, So so first I want to bring up the idea that in Ice and Fire, could the Red Comet actually be a coincidence? Like, could the Red Comet actually just be a comet that means nothing? It means nothing. That it just happens to be a big hunk of ice flying through space. And now, I think the thing that people would say, the biggest piece of evidence that it's not just a random comet that means nothing, is that, well, it appeared the very night of Dany's pyre, where she burns and comes out of it and is untouched in the Dragon's Hatch. And we know that was and that's a pretty big coincidence, whether, now granted, maybe you could argue that maybe it could have appeared the next day, and they still would have thought it was special and crazy. So it wasn't necessarily needing to be that day, but it happened to be, pretty close to that pretty major event. And it wasn't just, it didn't come days before that. It was Jogo that pointed it in the sky. So it's not like Dany was in her tent dealing with her miscarriage and all of that or her stillbirth for days, and the comet was out there and she just saw it that night. No, Jogo is the one that pointed it out. So there's this, idea that, okay, maybe it could be a coincidence. But here's the other thing, is that there's a lot of supernatural events in Ice and Fire, and they don't have comets. But had the comet come during one of those, people still, readers at least, would still be like, huh, that comet must mean something, like the return of the others, or shadow babies, or, I'm just trying to pick something else, or the resurrection of Catelyn Stark, or the resurrection of Beric Dondarrion. Had the comet appeared on any of those days, we still would have been like, oh, this is supernatural. The comet must have some sort of supernatural explanation to it. So I want to say that it is a remarkable coincidence that it lands on that day, but it might not be as remarkable as you think, because there are other supernatural days that had the comet hit, we would have been still inspired to think that the comet is supernatural in origin. But not that many. The story takes place over the course of about 2 years. So, maybe we could argue that at most there's 10 days out of those 2 years where something super, super, supernatural happens that we would say, oh, that comet is fucking special. But so it is remarkable. It is remarkable that the comet appears on that very day that dragons rehatch, and so, I'd like to say that it's not, that it's, because, it's strange, like with Halley's Comet, with Caesar's Comet, all these other comets in history, people were so sure, they were so sure that it meant something. And it didn't mean anything. It was a hunk of ice. It was comets happen all the time. Maybe we don't think about it that much. We don't look at the sky as much, light pollution and all, but, Halley's Comet comes every like 78 years. So, we don't know how often the Red Comet comes. Oh, interestingly, humans didn't know that comets were cyclical until relatively recently, like 300 years. Like, we just thought that comets came and then they were gone. Like, no one knew that Halley's Comet came back. Like, because first of all, there's all sorts of comets happening all over the place. So you don't know which one's Halley's Comet. But no one linked it. No one linked him until like 300 years ago. And that's the only time. But in Ice and Fire, Salladhor Saan mentions that like he's going to get paid when the Red Comet returns. So in Ice and Fire, somehow they have better astronomy where they know that comets are cyclical, while we certainly didn't know that until very relatively recently. So it's like we didn't know, like they didn't know that Halley's Comet was going to come back. They didn't know any of these things were going to come back. So so interesting. Probably just a George error, like thinking that like people was just assuming. Like I had assumed that everybody had known that Halley's Comet was coming back. No, they didn't. They hadn't figured it out. Because we'd figured out planets so well and everything, and Greeks were doing parallax of stars, but no, they hadn't figured out Halley's Comet. They actually thought it was atmospheric. They thought something was up with the atmosphere. So, okay, remarkable coincidence that the Red Comet comes. Now, say the Red Comet. The interesting thing about the Red Comet, and when we think about it historically, it's being used as propaganda. Or people write, oh, it's an ill omen, or oh, this person's divine, or whatever. Interestingly enough, the Red Comet, even though it's a big part of the beginning of A Clash of Kings, and it's interpreted by so many different people as something different, remarkably, it doesn't really do anything. Like, it's not really something that changes anyone's mind. Like, you could say, okay, well, it's a contribution, but like, take the Dothraki. Like, yes, the Dothraki definitely saw it as an omen. Like, oh my gosh, something supernatural. But they also saw dragons hatch and Dany walk out of a fire. So they didn't really fucking need the comet. Okay, the comet was, icing. Or Melisandre tells Selyse, like, oh, the Red Comet is a sign that like Stannis is the one. Sure, but Selyse was already like on board, right? Like Melisandre was on board too. Like, it didn't really change anything. Or like the Ironborn are like, oh, this is a sign that like this is a new age for the Ironborn. They were doing shit anyway. Okay, like the 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 Red Comet doesn't do anything socially, at all. So you kind of say, well, what's the point? Like, what's the point? And now, even in the sense of like, some people are just like, say we're thinking before we get into like, exploring whether it's a coincidence. Okay, maybe it's a coincidence, but like, say it's something magic something. Okay, say it's magic prophecy or whatever. The comet doesn't do anything. It doesn't convince anyone of anything. It's brought up at the beginning of Clash of Kings and it's promptly forgotten. Like it plays very little role in anything. No one is sitting there going, my mind has been changed. It is less effective than Jamie sleeping on a stump. Okay. It is like, like there are things that clearly change human beings' decisions, and there are things that don't. The comet is not one of those things. The comet changes no one's mind in the story of anything. So that's the weird thing, like, and it's barely used as propaganda. Like, yeah, it's used a little bit, but it's nothing too big. So, okay, so it's kind of purpose as prophecy and like magic prophecy, ill omen shit. I mean, besides like what it does to the reader, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything in story. And so like, I kind of feel like the prophecy thing is not very useful. So then the thing is, okay, does it have some sort of magical, or does it have some sort of influence? Like, was it needed to hatch the dragon eggs? And why was it needed to hatch the dragon eggs, right? Because we kind of already have like, well, there's Dany's blood, and there's her getting her mind warped by Quaithe. But like, what precisely like did the comet do? Like, did it increase magic? Was it a magic amplifier? And how do people know about this? Like say everything is orchestrated by time traveling Bran or Bloodraven or Quaithe. Like, did they know that the comet would be a magic amplifier, and that would help the hatching of dragons? Or in a sci-fi sense, like, is it a Vulcan? Did it increase psychic powers? Or, George does do this sort of thing in his stories before. I mean, if you're familiar with my previous videos, like, I've talked about the Vulcan, which appears in Night Flyers. The Vulcan being a telekinesis propelled organism that flies through space that happens to also enhance people's telepathic telekinesis abilities when it's nearby. And then most notably, it flies near Earth around the birth of Christ, implying that Jesus's miracles were some sort of telekinesis, telepathy thing. In the Plague Star, there's a comet, but it's actually a seed ship. And every time it comes, it delivers literal plagues on the planet of organisms and such to cause pain. And so, George is playing in that, where like, comet is this harbinger of negative things, and in this case, and we're imagining it, but this case, it's actually true. Like, it's happening because it's a seed ship. So like, all right, so is it doing something magical, and is it all planned by time traveling Bran? Did time traveling Bran purposely, or whoever, Quaithe, purposely get the dragon eggs to Dany at this exact juncture to have the Red Comet come. And I kind of feel like if we're talking about, if say we're going down the master plan, insert X's master plan route, it would need to be that, because like why else would, because again, it has no influence socially. Like no one does anything differently socially because of the comet. Nobody. So it almost feels like it has to, or it's a coincidence, right? Like it's either a remarkable coincidence or it's doing something magical, like, or sci-fi-ish, helping hatch the dragons or something. Because why else? Because it's not affecting behavior. Like I could understand like master plan that you want to have it at that time because it's going to be setting a lot of armies in motion. People are going to be like, Red Comet, gotta act. But then no one does that. No one does, like 0 people do that. So, so I feel like it's gotta be something like that, the comet helped hatch the dragons. I mean, I'm trying to think of anything else that happened at the end of anything else supernatural that happens at the end of a Game of Thrones or in the beginning of a Clash of Kings. Turns on the glass candles. Does it turn on the glass candles at the same time? Does it need, do we need some sort of gravitational idea that it turns on the we're not sure when the implication is that the glass candles turned on at the same time as the dragons hatching. But there's this there's a lot of ambiguity on causation with regards to the dragons, because like all of a sudden the wisdoms in King's Landing are like, man, we can make so much wildfire. Are there dragons around? And it's like, why is your ability to make wildfire like dependent upon dragons? But he like says that, like, and you're like, oh, there must be something magical about the creation of wildfire. And dragons are introducing magic in the world or something. Like it was such a weird thing that the wisdoms talk about. But so is the dragon, are the dragons creating magic? Like when Dany arrives in Karth and Quaithe is complaining that like people are using more magic, like is it the dragon creating the magic, or is it the comet that was creating the magic? Anyway, let's I don't know what you guys think, but it's one of these things where I do kind of think that it's a plot thread that the comet generally, I think, is a plot thread that George kind of dropped and forgot about. Like it's strange. Like if this event, if the comet was really important, and I understand that other stories, including like the Dragonbone chair and stuff, have comets in it and stuff like that, and George was just throwing everything in ice and fire, at the wall. But it's I don't it's like I do wonder like what he was doing with it. Did he drop the ball on it? Did he just like forget about it and just stop writing on it? Like how does the comet relate to things? It's got to be doing something supernatural, either magical or sci-fi-ish. Because it does seem like too much of a coincidence that it happens on the dragon hatching day, and it doesn't provide any social change. So if we're master planning events, it seems like it has to be some sort of functional, like world changing thing, like the hatching of the dragon eggs. I can't think of anything else, or the turning on of the glass candles. That would be the other one. But anyway. Oh, what do you think about passion as the driving force of magic? People will supernatural things to happen through emotion and fear, but when the comet happens and existence precedes essence, I do think you're onto something, Andrew. Like this idea of this is I think most famously people talk about this in the Matrix. Like if you believe you can do something, that'll help you will it happen, will it to happen. And so if we're really talking about, this is a universe where things are largely about telepathy. And when I say the world is mostly about telepathy, I'm talking about warging and dragon riding, right? Like both of those are telepathic powers. They may be the same power. I'm not sure. I would argue they are the same power, but whatever the case, it's a telepathic power. In one case, you are taking your consciousness and putting it into an animal and creating a telepathic bond. And in the other case, you're creating a telepathic bond, allowing the animal to let you on it and, feel what it feels, And so if we're talking about like powers of the mind, I think like the ability to sort of, believe you can do it is probably an important aspect of that. I mean, it's always been like in every story, that includes telepathy, there's always that, oh, you've got to believe, lift the rock, you will, or do or do not, there is no try. It's always about like believing it, right? There's a lot of discussion in fans about the Varamir Sixskins prologue and why that is so much about abominations and taboo. Like why are certain things taboo? And it's like, well, certain things are taboo to like limit the telepath. Oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. It's an abomination to try to wrest a human's mind from them. Oh, well, why? Why is that an abomination? And then, he tries to do it and he can't do it, but Bran can, because no one's taught him that taboo. So I do think that you're onto something. And so one could argue that the comet, Dany was like at this level of confidence, and she just needed like a little more confidence to pull off the dragon hatching fireproof thing. That actually, we could argue that like the comet has no power, but by Dany seeing the comet, she feels even more motivated and confident with her telepathy. I'm trying to think. Bring the last one. Okay. Jogo spied the first there. He said in a hushed voice. Dany looked and saw it in the east. The first star was a comet, burning red, blood red, fire red, the dragon's tail. She could have not asked for a stronger sign. So maybe I'm going to go back. Maybe I'm going to correct myself. Maybe, something socially did happen. Maybe the comet has no power, but Dany saw it and became more confident with her telepathic abilities at that moment. She could have not asked for a stronger sign. She sees it and she's like, over the top. Now I'm ready. I'm ready to do it. Maybe. If we have a time-traveling Bran, what's to say we don't have a time-traveling Euron? George R. Martin's motif of chess calls for two players. Time-traveling Euron suffers multiple deaths and keeps replaying like Bran. I've struggled with this. I've thought about this, whether there could be a second time traveler. The problem with two time travelers, and this comes up in fiction. It's not that people don't try to do it as a plot. Like for instance, Quantum Leap. There was the evil leaper from the future, if you remember that. Or in Star Trek Enterprise, there was the temporal Cold War. Of course, they don't really make sense because if somebody else goes back in time and changes things, you couldn't be aware of it. and so you wouldn't be able to actually react to it. So if there, so in any story, there can only really be like one time traveler because everybody else wouldn't be aware of the changes. It's one of those things in Back to the Future too that doesn't make sense, right? Like, you know, they're just chilling, they're chilling, and then Biff goes back in time and changes everything, and they're just okay, like, and they time travel back, they time travel, and then all of a sudden they notice it once they time travel. It's silly, but so that's the only thing that kind of like I understand like the weirdness with Euron having dreams about flying, um, jumping from a tower, like having the same sorts of ideas of Bran. I just don't know how you can do it kind of logically. And it's not that other stories haven't done it. Like I said, Quantum Leap, Evil Leapers, Star Trek Enterprise, Back to the Future 2. But those are sloppier narratives than I think George R. R. Martin is willing to tolerate. Like George, like I know that like all this analysis, and I point out like the mistakes that George makes, but George, his mistakes are few and far between. Like he really focuses on time. Like in his stories about time travel, he's very focused on the paradoxes and trying to make it make as much sense as possible. And I think having two time travelers is just something that is too messy for him, you know? Maybe I'm wrong, but that's the only thing. That's the only thing is how do you logically explain how one person would even be aware of the other person changing time? Um, what if Arianne was actually in the tower only a few days and she was just really impatient? I've got to think about this. How on like something where how long was she in the tower? Well, okay. There's a few things I'm like we know that so there's a few other events. I know that this is like mostly as a joke, but I'm gonna play. I have to I'm gonna play ball on this. Okay, so the thing is we hear about I think it's Cersei 5 or Cersei 6, where Cersei sits down with Qyburn and talks about various events um, in Dorne. Um, yeah, Cersei 5. So in Cersei 5, she thinks about she hears about the various events in Dorne, namely Spotted Silva getting married to Lord Estermont, and I think Damon. He mentions Damon Sand too, right? Um, he's imprisoned Damon Sand. And I'm trying to think if even that time would even make much sense because the queen making chapter happens when they just hear about Tywin Lannister dying. So Tywin dies in Cersei 1. And so we're talking like the distance of time between Cersei 1 and 5. There's at least enough time for uh, there's at least enough time for the marriage to be arranged. And then the news to make it to King's Landing. So I'm trying to think of if trying to calculate if like does that mean could Arianne be already out of the of the tower, or is there something else that kind of like triggers it all? Because we don't really hear Ariana just kind of does nothing until the Watcher chapter and when they have dinner, right? She gets out of the tower, then she does nothing until the Watcher chapter, which is a ways actually, because I think Balon Swan is sent off in Cersei 4. Try to think of some proof that that Arianne was actually in the tower for a long time. What about the snakes? The sand snakes? No. I mean, we're definitely told that in Cersei 5 to give us the impression that some time has passed. But that arrest, but that could have happened pretty quickly. And then Arianne could be, or that could have happened, and then Arianne could have been released a few days. Do I have any proof that she was in the tower for a long time? Well, I mean, the other thing is that she's trying to talk to that servant girl who's in love with Garrus, Gerald. I mean, um, um, and she at least gets changed, right? Garen. Is she released and just hanging out? All right, I think, George, that you have me. I can't prove that she was in there as long as I mean, besides her own clock. I don't necessarily. Oh, let me see. Let me think. What about the Quentin idea? Is there anything there? I guess I can't prove that because it's just her own thinking about it. Was there anything that really showed that time has passed besides the story? She could just be doing nothing. She could have been released to be doing nothing. I don't know. Well, I suppose that had she been released, had she been released early, she probably would have been hanging around and seeing Myrcella and figured out the bandage situation. And so, yeah, in that sense, it just doesn't make sense that Doran would want her out, messing around with that. Yeah, no, I feel like the bandage thing might be because if she's just out, she's only in there a few days and then she's out and about doing stuff. She's just causing too much trouble. She should probably be looking at Myrcella's bandages and stuff, and Doran doesn't want that. Or scheming with sand snakes, and the sand snakes would be out and looking at stuff. Or the idea is that the sand snakes are in prison the whole time, but Arianne is not. Yeah. I don't know, just oh God, would Trump make a better Pope or a Sith Lord? These are these weird questions. So I mean, Trump got pretty offensive. Like sending out a message that he would make a good pope. Like that's pretty sacrilegious, sacrilegious even. Um, but he would, I mean, he would make a horrible pope. I mean, the pope has to make inspirational speeches that like lift people up, and I mean, you got to remember, like, the pope's job, even though we, for us that aren't Catholic, like, we sit around thinking that the pope is making like grand changes to things, and for the most part he's not. For the most part he's going around and he's doing speeches, he's doing masses, and he's trying to be inspirational to people. And um and Trump would be horrible at that. He would be horrible at that. He'd go out there for like a mass, and he'd start talking about Biden, and people in Italy would be like, what are you talking about? I came here to see the Pope and think about God, and he's talking about Biden. Um, so no, he'd make a horrible, horrible, horrible Pope. Sith Lord. I mean, the Sith Lords, at least, like, they were effective in what they did. Like, they had a plan, and they got things done according to their plan. The thing about Trump, and this is the saving grace of the world, is the fact that he's completely incompetent, and he can't get what he wants because he's a fucking idiot. Thank goodness he's a fucking idiot. I mean, things as bad as things are, they'd be far worse if he were actually intelligent and like cogent, and had, his mind was together. So, he's also not patient. Like, Sith Lords like do things over the course of, 40 years. Like, Trump is just, he's incredibly impatient. That's one of his downfalls as well. Like, had he tried to get all of his evil stuff done super slowly, it would have been more effective than him trying to do it all at once. So the idea is he's just kind of horrible at both. He'd be really bad at both. So, yeah. Oh, finally finished your book, Preston. Going to reread it some. Thank you, thank you. It's you know, it's it took a long time. It took a long time, even though it's not really that long of a book. But yeah, no, it's and it is a book where, a lot of what's in the end is in the beginning, and stuff like that. You'll find references throughout. I did a lot of weaving, in a sense, or um, but yeah, you should all check out the Dreams of Ghosts and Indians if you really want to make me happy. The Dreams of Ghosts and Indians, my book. Um, the chapter was amazing. Asha Queen. What was Gilbert Farwin doing during the Battle of Ice? Um, Gilbert Farwind and the Iron Isles. I mean, conceivably he hasn't been doing much. I mean, what Eric Ironmaker is ruling the Iron Isles right now. We're gonna get to the Iron Isles in Sweet Robin's the Winds of Winter. We're going there, and so I don't know if I want to spoil which character is going there, but a character is going to the Iron Isles, and so we are going to see it before the story is done. The problem is it's probably going to be near the end of the book, so it's so we'll see. But thank you. Asha took forever, and I'm happy that it turned out well and people really liked it. I knew there's certain chapters that I kind of knew I have to get really, really right, because people are going to have extra scrutiny on it. So, like, Bran and Asha with the Battle of Ice. I knew I needed to have Quentin be pretty good. Things like this, for people because people have been waiting. People are going to be extra critical of these ones. People are very interested in the North. They're very interested in Stannis, so I want everything to be good. But thank you, I do appreciate it. Took a long time, and but I do like how it came out, and putting together Davos, and so hopefully people will like that as well. Oh yeah, the whole interweb wants to know 100 grown men versus one adult male silverback gorilla, no weapons, who wins? The this is interesting that this has come back. This was a discussion in something similar in the season in fifth season of Angel, where Angel and Spike are having this argument over who would win in a fight, cavemen or astronauts. And but this is ridiculous because it's 100 grown men and one adult silverback male gorilla. Like, obviously the 100 grown men would win. I mean, is this the joke? Like, who would it, like, is that it's so obvious that like 100 grown men of course are going to, I mean, probably two men could figure out a way to beat one gorilla. This is, but who is anyone saying that the gorilla would win against 100 human men? That's ridiculous. Like, or is the idea that the 100 men would start like fighting with each other, that why are we hurting this gorilla? But yeah, I saw that. I mean, is that the joke? They 100 men, they rush it. I mean, of course. But the anytime, like, sometime you should Google let's see, it's the angel argument, because they're just in this furious like. And he's just like, this is about something primal. This is about like something raw. And he's like, and Angel's arguing. He's like, do you think like intelligence and organization and like the ability to and language don't mean anything? And like, because of course, like astronauts would beat cavemen. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, astronauts are really fit. That's the thing, is they're fit human beings and they're smart and they can organize. Like, of course astronauts are going to beat cavemen. I don't care. Cavemen for the most part are going to be malnourished too. Like, come on. Wasn't the comet seen when Aegon, son of Rhaegar, was born? This was the I don't think anything with I don't think so. The problem is that because there's so much prophecy and stuff, like people start confusing stuff, but there's no comet, and not when Rhaegar was born either. By the way, I hate the fact that like the Rhaegar photo on the wiki is clearly Thor. I mean, it's just like, come on, it's clearly Hemsworth that he used as a model. Love the Asha chapter. You did my my fave character justice. Will we get to know what Stannis thought of Asha's escapade? I imagine a mix of amusement and discomfort. Also, Wyman is cooked, right? It's hard to say about Wyman. I mean, Wyman was sliced open, and I think many of the people that left the castle probably think that maybe Wyman's dead. Um, but say Wyman survives. Like say the maester, like one of the maesters, because there's three maesters there, like survive, like keeps Wyman alive. The thing is like if Ramsay is killing Roose, or things like that, or killing other lords at Winterfell, like he would just have Wyman killed too. Like that's easy. That's easy pickings. So what's funny is I think that even though that Wyman might have survived his getting slashed, he he would be killed off by Rams pretty quick. But you just brought up a really fascinating idea. So I've been playing around with like after everything happens at Winterfell. I have no idea what happens, but after everything happens at Winterfell, I had this idea of like I think it's no secret that like I want the epilogue to be Ghost. And Ghost coming to Winterfell, and maybe going down to the crypts and exploring and seeing the aftermath of something. Maybe finally, like we're like, what happened at Winterfell? What happened at Winterfell? What happened at Winterfell? And then finally, Ghost comes in and we see through Ghost's eyes, with Jon inside Ghost, what happened at Winterfell. But what's a fascinating idea is that Wyman Manderly, let's say they forgot about him. Let's say Ramsay's doing all this shit. People are going off and battling. They're abandoning the castle. And they just leave Wyman. And he has enough fat reserve that he could survive. Like as long as he's getting water. That's the problem is water. Like, is he going to be able to have water? But he could survive a long time starving. And so like Ghost could perhaps find like Wyman Manderly, like skinny with like flaps of skin hanging off him because he's been like, he hasn't eaten in a month, but he's survived at Winterfell while everybody else is gone or dead. It's an interesting idea of like, of all the people that you think have like died, well, Wyman's there because he had all that fat left on him. He's just this like emaciated guy with just like skin hanging off him. But yeah, what would Stannis think of Asha's escapade? Well, the thing is like I think that if we're being logical, and I don't necessarily think that like George has thought all this through, but like Stannis valued Asha because she could help take get the Iron Islands. She could be used to bargain for the Glover hostages, all sorts of things. Used perhaps for Torrhen Square. But once he gets Theon, he's like, well, even better. Like, a boy is better than a girl. Theon, like in his mind, he'd be like, oh, Theon's much more valuable than Asha. Even though Theon is a wreck. So his value of Asha may have dropped considerably once he gets Theon in hand. So he may have been like, amused and discomfort. Like, obviously like women doing things is going to make him a little uncomfortable, but he's just going to say, well, I mean, I kind of understand that you went after someone you thought was the commander, but you ended up smashing in the face of a 10-year-old boy instead. Fantastic. Like, I think Asha is going to get a lot of shit. Like people are going to be giving her a lot of shit, for what she did. But yeah, it's kind of this thing where, will Stannis care? He's just like, what was Asha doing? What an idiot, So we shall see. We shall see. I'm actually working in my head like where I want them to be next because I'm trying to figure out what Stannis would do. Like if you were Stannis, like if I were Stannis, what would I do? And with the situation, like I'm assuming that like the Manderlys have brought ships up the White Knife. Do I try to take Winterfell? Do I take Castle Serwyn, or do I say fuck it and I jump on those ships and I just go down to White Harbor? I just I know, like, what would you do? Like, what's the smart move for Stannis? Like, do you still feel like you need to take Winterfell, or do you take Castle Serwyn first, and attack from there, or do you just say fuck it and like I don't need let's get out of here, let's go, you know? I don't know. I don't know what the smart move is, right? Mm, mm. It's something. It's something crazy, you know. Um, Getting payment when a comet returns, maybe like when pigs fly. It's true, but this idea that comets return is is uh is an interesting thing in itself. Like they shouldn't know that comets return. Like Dash's chapter, but it seemed like Stannis' plan includes sacrificing a lot of his own men, which he must need to take Winterfell. No, um, yeah, I'm kind of working on what Stannis' plan is, because obviously, like, you can't you can't take Winterfell. Like, you don't have that many men. It's really, and so like, some people are like, okay, that's true. Like, what are the different ways he can get around all of the problems of Winterfell being this excellent castle? And so people have brought up the fact that, okay, with the snow drifts, the walls aren't as high as they used to be, and maybe he can climb over the walls. And some people say, well, maybe he could dress up like Freys and get on the inside somehow, or and then some people are saying, well, maybe he doesn't need to take Winterfell. Maybe he'll just let him starve and he'll fuck off. Like, what do you do? I mean, whether he had people die at the battle or not, he was fucked. Like, he's in the same predicament. Yeah, he loses a lot of men, but yeah, he had to lose men. But he also lost, it's a lot of clan men and Karstark men, and he's getting these Manderly forces. This idea that the Manderly forces are coming up from. Keep in mind that Wyman Manderly only sent 300 knights to Winterfell, so he must have more men on all of those ships, on all of the navy. So Stannis has more men. You could argue that Manderly's going to provide him with another 2,000 men or so, but that's still not enough to take Winterfell. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, even if he had 10,000 men, it's not enough to take Winterfell, unless there's some sort of way, like, the snows allow him over the wall. They dress up like the Freys. Some trick, some trick. Because all the castles are always taken by tricks, right? No, it's the only way castles are taken in Ice and Fire is by tricks. So what's Stannis's plan? Is he gonna take Winterfell? Is he gonna take Castle Serwyn, or is he gonna fuck off and do something else? And how do the wildlings coming down the King's Road, how do they affect things? I don't know. I mean, he could easily, like, go to Castle Serwyn and say, hey, Ramsay should come to me, and I'll hold up in this keep. I don't know if the keep is large enough. We don't know about Castle Serwyn, how big it is, but yeah, you had to sacrifice people. This idea that somehow it was all going to be clean, that everyone's just going to run over the lake and splush, and that's the end of it. Like, I mean, that's a lot of wish fulfillment. You've got to have some losses for the heroes too. So So the Red Comet might be a red herring. How ironic. It's true. William the Conqueror also was like, hey, cool comet. Never mentions it again. I mean, the comet is useful for us fans in knowing that things are happening at the same time. It didn't hatch the eggs, it deployed them? I don't have to explain that to me. I'm not quite getting that. Um, oh, this it's because it's from the seed ship. You're saying that the dragons, in fact, the eggs are still in the pyre. The eggs never hatched. They're actually still in the pyre. The dragons came down from the seed ship, and and like everybody thought that they hatched from the eggs, but the eggs are actually still in the pyre. Like they're just under the ashes. I mean, the coincidence of the egg colors and the dragons, though, is something. But um, does he activate time traveling Bran? But we know that time traveling Bran affects Hodor at some point, right? We know time traveling Bran at least goes back in time as far as Hodor. Um, the comet is actually an orbiting satellite that is now on and allows communication uplink for the glass candles. But why is it only like why is it now visible? I mean, satellites, whether they have light on them or whatever, they reflect the sun's light, and so you can see satellites at night in the sky. Um, but like this one would get activated and is like huge glowing red. Like how glowing red it would have to be enormous to like make a difference. Um, right? For someone to like look across the sky and see this huge, it would have to be a really low orbiting satellite, or maybe a really low orbiting satellite. It's actually like a plane. It's actually a drone. It's a drone that's come up and is actually like in the. Everybody just thinks it's a comet. The comic could just be a thematic purpose of exploring how different religions interpret the same event. I mean, that's why. I mean, very much so in the sense that like Halley's Comet was that. Like Halley's Comet, um, you know, was written down in Chinese history at different points, and and in 1066 and such. Um, and yeah, that's definitely like something George is doing. He's showing how different religions interpret the same thing differently, and this was explored in Night Flyers. Like every culture had their own interpretation on what the Vulcan was. Um, but beyond like this fun exercise, what is it? Like the Vulcan was something beyond this fun exercise. Like it's got to be something more than just a fun exercise, right? Right? Like, or did George just write a bunch of chapters where it's just like, yeah, it'd be fun if we just have this comment. Everybody thinks it's something different. Well, why? Like, and it does coincidentally happen when the dragons hatch. Um, throw a comet in Lord of the Rings where all kind of stuff across the land is happening all at once. How would that change the story if the elves and hobbits are like, ooh, comet, we should do something, or coincidence, or Chekhov's gun? What? So there's no comets in Lord of the Rings, I imagine. I mean, by the way, I googled it, and Rings of Power comes in with Gandalf meteor like flying to the ground. Yeah, there's no comet in Lord of the Rings. But that's the thing is like, what's this function of the? I was also thinking about like, could the comet return? So, um, there was a comet that appeared, and then the next year it appeared again, and because it has like a long elliptical orbit, right? You can have like a comet pass Earth, go around the sun and then pass Earth on its way out. Like it can have a long, you get it 1-2 on the way out. So I was thinking about could the red comet do that? But it's been now like I don't know a year and a half since the comet, and it's like it's a little. I'd have to have an astronomer to like tell me whether or not it's possible that the red comet could return again, um, based on like trajectory. I'd have to talk to because when the one comet appeared, yeah, like it was like the next year, but it could have been like late in the year and then early the next year. Like I'm not sure, um, like the orbits and everything, and if the red comet could return to the story, um, based on its orbits, but maybe I have to I need astrophysicists to tell me if the red comet could come back. Um, but yeah, I don't. Yeah, is it going to affect anything? How would it change the story? I don't know. I don't know how. Like, is it just there? Like, is it just there as a coincidence that has no impact on the story whatsoever, or does it actually help catch the dragons? I feel like it's gotta have to actually actively help catch the you know hatch the dragons or something. But I'm liking the idea that maybe Danny just saw it and believed, and that prior other than that she would have walked into the pyre and burned to death. um Alardim and the Zealots summon the comet of their master plan, which shall be released in the eighth book, A Deem of Summer. So Oliver has given me the business here because I always mention that one of the there's a couple dropped plots of A Clash of Kings. Alardim is mentioned a bunch by name as if this character might like is going to be important later on, but of course he never appears, and everybody kind of assumes that. Well, Tyrion mentioned to the ship's captain that if you want to kill this guy, you can kill this guy, and people just assume that he was killed, right? So, but the fact that like his name is it's such a striking name, Alardim, that I'm like, it was one of those things that probably George thought, well, maybe he'll come back, or maybe he won't, and then he just never did anything with it. But and then the religious zealots are another dropped plot. I mean, the religious zealots are oh my god. So Alardim Alardim is mentioned by name 8 times in A Clash of Kings. 8 times. That name, I mean, it's just like a name like Alardim 8 times in A Clash of Kings. So it just really sticks out when you're like reading or listening to the story, like Alardim. But yeah, and the zealots, the religious zealots are clearly a dropped plot. Like George probably thought he was going to use the religious zealots from A Clash of Kings to do what he's doing with the sparrows later on, and just like forgot about him. But yeah, the end world zealots that are excited about. Tyrion thinks it's because it's about to be the 3rd century after Aegon's landing, So, but yeah, the comet will come back too. I mean, I get the thing is you're right that George has a lot of dropped plots and in A Clash of Kings, and Alardim could be one of. I mean, the comet could be one of them. Yeah. Oh, what is Todogai? Yeah, the dreams of ghosts. Todogai. Yeah, it is weird. The first time I saw somebody, because I wasn't the first person to abbreviate it. The first time I saw it like that, it was my editor, and he started sending me stuff like Todogai, and I was like, Todogai? Oh, the Dreams of Ghosts and Indians, yes. Could the comet's return be related to the others? Well, we kind of know that the comet, I mean, it's hard to say if the comet is zooming towards Earth, how close does the comet need to be to affect Earth? I mean, I don't know. I mean, comets don't affect much. They're pretty small objects. They're pretty light in the grand scheme of things. They much less massive than our moon, much farther than our moon. They don't affect much at all. But the so we're talking about the others are clearly around, not just, I mean, we could say that like Georg Mormont talks about how, they've been spotting others recently. And, obviously there's the prologue, which happens, a good year before the rest of the story. So we're talking like 297. So a couple years, we see the others at least about 2 years before the comet. But at the same time, once we meet Craster, we know that Craster's been doing his baby shit for fucking, what, 40 years? 30 years? So the others have been around for many generations. They just haven't been doing anything. The others haven't really returned, because we know that Craster's been handing babies to him all day for a long time, for a long, long time. So, so I don't think so. So I don't know, because now we're talking about like 40, like a comet 40 years away, flying in. So I don't know. I don't think, I'm trying to think of like how they'd be related, Comet's so small and so far away. PJ casually doing his perfect Yoda impersonation. It was a pretty bad one, wasn't it? I was just kind of like, do or do. You got to do the, I did like do or do not. It's more like do or do not. Do or do not. Never knowing just where he was. Preston, a while ago, did you say you liked The Leftovers? I loved The Leftovers. I'm a big fan of Damon Lindelof. I think he does really great work, and I think if you see Mrs. Davis and Watchmen and The Leftovers, I think they're all fucking great shows, all worth your time. I think he's a really great showrunner. On the point of trade deficits, you have your trade deficit with Chipotle. Chipotle has a trade deficit with me. I work there. Really? And I have a trade deficit with you since I bought your book, and you buy nothing from me. Wow, we actually have a nice circle here. But that's the whole thing with trade deficits, is that they should it gets a little complicated with regards to like currency, because like there is a relationship between your currency valuation and your trade deficit, because your current account and your capital account like have to balance and things like this. So like when you think about like your trade deficit, like if you are buying more items than somebody is than you, then they are holding more dollars, and then they take those dollars and they buy treasury bills. But when they buy treasury bills, they are now taking that money out of the economy theoretically, and thus increasing, revaluing value of the currency. So like, and so the idea is that like, if and keeping the dollar strong, so the dollar becomes stronger the more treasury bills are bought. Or no, wait, am I getting it reversed? See, it gets complicated. I'm like trying to think it through. Oh, what would be reversed? More treasury? They buy more treasury bills. No, more treasury bills puts more money in the economy, and then it inflates your currency, and then your exports become more competitive, so they buy more, and so it balances. You know, you gotta start thinking about all these balances and stuff. But nonetheless, it is all related with regards to your your trade deficit and the valuation of your currency. Yeah, if they buy T-bills, buying T-bills, you're issuing more T-bills, so you're inflating your currency, and therefore that in turn is going to make your exports more competitive, which should balance your trade deficit. Yeah. Anyway, which would make someone buy less of your treasury bills and in reverse. Anyway, sorry. Oh, Preston, do you make more money with the purchase of a paperback ebook or Kindle Unlimited? I want to get you the most dollars to you. What's weird is, I probably I think it's slightly more that you make with the ebook because you're not producing anything. There's that's almost all the profits for an ebook goes straight to you, but straight to me. But like, it's weird is that like, I kind of like the idea of more physical books being in the world. But it's cheaper for you. I mean, the thing is what's cheaper for you is the ebook, and it's actually more money for me, the ebook. But at the same time, like, I kind of like the idea of like books existing in the world, like my book existing in the world. But it's silly. Whatever's convenient for you. I mean, it's a I think it's I like the I like the cover. I like the design. I spent some good deal of time like hiring an artist and things like that. So it's a fun little thing. Let's see. Where's my people have seen the cover? Yes. Yeah. So I mean, it's funny, right? That it's obviously like cheaper for you and more profit for me. Not that I really care about the profit. I don't. This was not a an exercise that was for money making. But yeah, but I did hire this artist to make the cover and everything, and I thought he did a great job. He was from Australia. So, but yeah, there it is. Oh, is it me, or is the show Lost actually existential in a Christian predeterminism costume? I mean, I haven't. I mean, I've seen some of Lost. I never finished it. What's funny is that my mother um, watched all of Lost, and I remember saying like, "Mom, a lot of people were disappointed with the ending. Are you sure you want to dedicate like all of this time?" And she's like, no. And then she watched it and she loved it. She loved it. She loved the ending. I was like, isn't it the ending? They're all just in purgatory or something. And she's like, yeah, that was a great ending. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, but I think because she binged it, she didn't have as much like, she didn't have her hopes so high that many, as many of us do. But I never finished Lost. Um, and so I imagine if in the end there's a God and there's an afterlife and all this sort of thing, then it should be Christian predeterminism. I mean, Christianity is by definition predeterminism. I mean, there's very clear, uh, well, that's not necessarily clear, but there's a book called Revelation that says how everything's going to end up, and so they're predetermined. But yeah, everything's predetermined according to Christianity. But I mean, I understand that there's like Calvinist, Lutheran, beliefs and stuff like that, but on predestination and stuff. But still, you'd think if they're all in purgatory and there's a God and all of that, and I'm assuming I haven't seen it, but if you kind of doesn't an omnipotent God like mean that there has to be that there has to be a predetermined world? Like, if God is omnipotent, he must have knowledge. He must be omniscient, and if he's omniscient, he must know how everything is going to how everything is going to end up, right? So, and if he's all powerful, he must be able to like alter everything to his will. So everything would be predetermined. Oh, how much in-world time will pass in the Winds of Winter fanfic? I can see potential to jump forward months, if not years, between chapters for a lot of POVs if desired. That's a good question. It's something I've thought about. Let me bring up something real quick. I know people, yeah, I love to bring up my table of contents. Get me to my table of contents. Oh no. I've got to hide. I don't want to do it. I'm going to hide all of my chapter titles past the ones that I'm ready to reveal here. But okay. So all right. Oh no. People are gonna like freeze and go back and read what I have there. So the so here we are with the chapters. I've been moving around this Daenerys a little bit because Mercy mentions Lemongate. I was gonna have like Daenerys before Mercy, but then I'm like, what if we reveal something in Daenerys 2? So maybe we'll put Daenerys 2 after Mercy. But even with all of this, like, so much of this was catching up with the first day of winter. And even when you go beyond like first day of winter, Mercy, Cersei getting up to her trial, maybe you're getting to like a month past a Dance with Dragons, maybe. But then, there might be a place to break if I can think about it. Because like Elaine, everybody is preparing for their invasion of the Riverlands, and that might take some time. Everybody going home, calling banners, getting on ships. So that might take some weeks. So you could have a break. Bran, you can always have breaks with Bran. We have no idea how much time is going by. And after Sam, I think the Fool is going to take place. That's Samwell chapter. I think the Fool will still take place in Old Town, but I think Sam might flee Old Town at that point and try to maybe head to maybe head home or somewhere with the glass candle. So you could maybe have a little break there, but and then Cersei, eventually maybe she'd flee King's Landing, but it's really it's tough to think like how much break you can have, and then how much, and so a couple months, and then the we can march it, we can have it follow like the Elaine chapters, like eventually making it to Harrenhal. But it's hard to think. I can't think of. It's weird, like more than a few months, like three or 4 months. The whole story, like it's the pacing is fast. It's more like Storm. On getting every. It's just that so much of the story was eaten up by the 4 battles, and the 4 battles and the 2 trial by combats. So it's really tough to, like, once you have all that out of the way, like you realize like half the fucking book is dedicated to the battles and the trials by combat. So you're then left with another half of the book to like maybe advance the timeline 3-4 months at most. And I'm saying that's like the upper limit. I couldn't see more than 4 months in passing, just because like so much time has already been lost with, and like having a break point is tough. But yeah, something like that. Yeah, I think 4 months is probably the limit. Like 4 or 5 months is probably the limit of how much time could pass in the Winds of Winter, at least in the fanfic. But it would obviously be nice to have some more time pass, but I just can't. The problem is that you have so many moving parts. And so how many people, like how are you going to have all the people stop doing everything all at the same time? I mean, I can kind of see where that break would happen with Hota, like, and where it would happen with Sam. I could figure it out with the North, but man, it's just a lot. Like, I think King's Landing is the thing that makes it hard. You got to have John Con take King's Landing and Cersei flee, and then maybe you could have a break there. But even if you're talking a break, like what, add another month? Like, okay, then 5 months. 5 months pass in the Winds of Winter. You see Sinners. Did it remind you of Fever Dream? I have not seen Sinners. Everyone's been talking about it. Like, this is the first time I've seen like a movie everybody been like, not since like I'm trying to think like Parasite, where it's just like everyone's like, oh, this movie, you have to see it. Dreams of Ghosts and Indians, is it a wrapped up story, or will we be left hanging for future books? Dreams of Ghosts and Indians is a self-contained story. Obviously, it's not closed up with a bow. The characters go on to have more adventures. And the way it's written, they're going on to have even greater adventures. But it's not meant to have a sequel. It could have a sequel, but like it's not meant to have a sequel, and so it's not like on a cliffhanger where you're like, what's going to happen next? Check out in part 2. Like, no, this has never been designed to be any sort of like series or epic or anything like that. It's one story. It tells its story. Um, Obviously, the characters go on, but that's not the it's not meant to be like some other like more tales that need to be told. It's not written like that. You know, I mean, it's like so that's it. Yeah, no, it's wrapped up. It's wrapped up. Team Gorilla, Team Gorilla. The Red Comet is from Maester Crescent, of course. Yeah, I'm trying to think if he would have done things differently. If had he not seen the comet. Glenn Quinn, that was yeah, it makes me cry like thinking about Glenn Quinn and like um how much I love like I know like Joss Whedon's a horrible guy and people are like tired of Joss Whedon's like humor and all this stuff, but like I still have such a soft spot for Angel that I can never be like I mean this must be how people feel about J.K. Rowling, right? Like they have like such a soft spot for Harry Potter that it's like really hard for them to like this is the thing of like Angel. Like I've such like it was so good, and it was and Glenn Quinn's and the character of Doyle and how they brought Doyle like the Doyle story back for the 100th episode while wrapping up Cordelia and everything was just done so well. Um, Time traveling brand disproved by the mere fact that time traveling brand existed. If time traveling brand existed, he would see the story was never going to be finished and pop off for a beer instead of getting involved. Checkmate, Preston. That's true. That's true. That's true. Could Rhaegar's harp be in the fanfic? I don't know if I'm going to go with the harp. I don't think the harp was is a very uh very revealing. Um but I think that just John had a lot of like visions and um about the crypts and he would just want to go down there regardless and just look at statues or whatever. But the thing is also like, I think it's an interesting place to kind of have Ghost reunite with Ghost will reunite with Bran earlier, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what Ghost would find, but there seems to be some sort of secret in the crypts, and I don't know about it being the harp, but it'd be interesting at that point, to find that for Ghosts and John inside Ghost for them to find out all this stuff, then it just doesn't make any difference because John's dead, So, um, mm, mm, mm. Wyman was bleeding like a lot. It's true. It's true, but he's got a lot of blood. He's got a lot of blood. A boy is better than a girl. Preston Jacobs. I was quoting Stannis. This is like that. There's a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode about the N word, where Larry David goes into the bathroom and hears some people using the N word, and he comes out and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe these people in the bathroom. They were using the N word." And then a black guy walks by and he's like, "No, I wasn't saying it myself. I was quoting somebody else." Oh, you guys are putting out on average a chapter every 2 months since starting the project. If you're shooting for 70 chapters, you're on track to finish by spring of 2032, the same time Admiral Curd projected George R. R. Martin will release Winds. You're fulfilling prophecy. Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to get in a situation where I can go a little faster. Um, it's it's going slower than I thought than I would like. Um, so I have to figure out what to do. I mean, I think one way is like try to cut it down to like 67 chapters or something, or make the chapters shorter or something like that. But that's definitely something that needs to be done. But or that's just the hope that future chapters won't be as difficult or something, or maybe Preston will have more time. I don't know, but I'd like to get him out faster. I'm sorry I'm late. I stumbled upon a 45-minute YouTube video on Gyarados. What? What on Gyarados? I can understand on Magikarp. Um, Ramsey breaks Wyman's legs since he doesn't do much exercise, and Wyman melts snow that blows in when the ironwood door is smashed down. Yeah, I mean that's the thing is he can just melt snow, do something to get the water. But yeah, and it's one of those cruel things, right? That like George would do. Yeah, snowdrifts won't stay 40 feet tall if 1,000 men climb on them. That's true. That's true. Yeah, but it is just like one of these like cruel like things of Wyman Manderly sitting around like starved. It's like seven, right? Um, an iridium asteroid heralded the death of dinosaurs. The second moon meteor broke open, and dragons poured forth. Dawn was forged from that meteor. Hmm. Um, I don't know if I'm buying the whole Jiqui story that the moon is an egg and that dragons came forth. I know some people are like, oh, the seasons are out of whack because there used to be two moons and one broke open and the dragons came out and stuff like that. I'm not too much into the. I understand that we're literally talking about like what the comet is, but I don't necessarily like buy too much of uh, the the astrology aspects of ice and fire. And I say astrology instead of astronomy, because like George understands astronomy to some degree, like in a sci-fi sense, because he spent so many years like doing sci-fi stories. But like, you know, could you imagine George? This is a guy who like is still like bitterly angry that a four-legged dragon sigil was used in his show. Like, could you imagine him like writing like, yes, and then the moon broke open and dragons came out? Like, does that sound like George? Like he'd be like, well, but if the moon broke open, the meteorites would fall to the earth and kill all life on the planet. Well, maybe that's why they're under the earth. But no, it would heat to a degree that was too hot, and he would get all sci-fi on it, and it would fall apart. Like he would not be participating in a discussion about moons moons breaking open and having dragons coming out. Like I think that's just way too fantastical. Like even if you believe that there's magic in the story, I think there's a difference between like magic in the story and the moon breaking open and dragons pouring out. You know, like, could you even imagine that in Harry Potter? Like, Harry Potter is a story where just magic, just do whatever you want. But could you imagine the moon breaking open and having dragons pour out in that story? Like, that would be too fantastical for Harry Potter, which was much more fantastical than Ice and Fire, you know? So I just, and I also don't know, like, what the function of, like, Dawn being a different metal, like, would provide. Like, what's the point? Like, what, you know, the thing that, like, what makes Dawn such a great sword? What makes it so great that, like, Arthur Dane is just even better with it. Is it light? Is it um, does he have a telepathic link to it? Is there technology on it? Like what would make a sword so good that would make it into a better fighter? I don't know. I mean, they kind of explain it a little bit with Valyrian steel being lighter, but you only get a little better. Oh, could the Red Comet be a literal manifestation of Bloodraven's werewood surveillance, like a magical flare marking a pivotal event? What I'm thinking is that if time traveling Bran is running the timeline over and over again, and he kind of knows that he needs to get dragons back, because he's running the timeline, and he needs the dragons to whatever kill the others. And so he's like, how do I hatch dragons? How do I hatch them? Well, I've got to orchestrate some shit. And it's like, okay, I've got this like Dany, but how do I get her to hatch the eggs? And I'm trying to get everything together. And I tried her hatching it without the at a different time. And it totally didn't fucking work. And she just burned to death. And he's like, fuck, Groundhog's Day. Tries again. Tries it at a different time. Still burns to death. And then he tries it with where she's inspired by seeing the comet. And he's like, perfect. So he like orchestrates her entire journey so that she gets right there at that time to see the comet. I think that might be something. He has to like orchestrate all those events to get her there at that moment. Who's the most morally good person in the series, and why is it Edmure? Edmure is probably pretty up there. He's the only one that seemed to care about his small folk, right? That he wanted to bring him inside, and protect him. I mean, he's a pretty good choice. I'm trying to think of anybody else. Like there's definitely people that are like morally fine. It's just that they aren't given the opportunity. Like, Brienne is pretty morally spotless, but like she I mean, except for her desire to like get revenge on Stannis, but she hasn't done anything yet. But she hasn't had the opportunity to save all those people. And while Edmure did, and he tried to save as many as he could. I mean, Jon Snow, let's be honest, Jon Snow is pretty morally good. He wants to save as many people as possible. And he does what he can. He does what he can. It's, that's the thing. Brienne hasn't been given the opportunity, but Brienne has the intention. Jon Snow, he saves wildlings. He does what he can. He wants to save more. Edmure saves small folk. That's pretty much it, right? Like we've got like three morally good characters in the whole story. Yeah, I mean that's about it. Oh, the red comet is a tart baked by Hot Pie. Okay. Physicist here, not astro, but the comet could loop around the sun in a tight orbit and head back near Planetos again. It would require pretty specific orbits, but it's not impossible. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Is if the sun is here, comets in general do long orbits wide out and then do a tight turnaround around the sun. So the idea is that like Planetos is, hits the comet on the way in and then hits it on the way out. But yeah, it would have to be not as tight a loop as some comets, so that it lingers more because it's going to be like a good 2 years on the way out. So I think it'd be interesting if the comet come back again. Fourth, can you please rewatch Revenge of the Sith? It's the perfect Star Wars movie. I think the perfect Star Wars movie is Star Wars. I don't know about you guys, okay? But I think when we're talking about a movie that best represents Star Wars, I'm gonna go with Star Wars. I think because no movie other than Star Wars got the tone of Star Wars right, the feeling, the magic. A lot of movies they try to imitate, but Star Wars really gets Star Wars right. Um, but do I think Revenge of the Sith is? I mean, I've seen Revenge of the Sith a lot. But do I think it's the perfect Star Wars movie? I think it has one. I think it has some pacing problems. Um, I think there's certain like I say, even the scenes that I think are great and beautiful. For example, the Order 66, which I do think is a great scene. I think it could have been improved with better pacing. Like I think each of the scenes is a little too long. Um, and well, had they done one long one and then they started going shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter, like you could have gotten this impression that this was happening all over, and there's a whole bunch of them. Um, um, I think that like General Grievous and the stuff at the beginning is I don't know. I think Count Dooku's kind of killed pretty fast. I think there's some pretty cheesy dialogue between Anakin and Padme. I don't know. I mean, look, I think Revenge of the Sith is the best of the prequels. Don't get me wrong, I do. And I think Revenge of the Sith is better than Return of the Jedi. I you know, but I don't know about the perfect Star Wars movie. I mean, I'm still not putting it anywhere close to Empire Strikes Back or the original Star Wars. But I appreciate, do I think do I rank it next? I mean, I don't actually think Solo is that bad of a movie, and I don't think um, Rogue One is that bad of a movie. So I think those are pretty good movies. Solid. I think Solo and Rogue One are solid movies. I'm trying to think of any, uh, I'd have to, but though I've only seen Solo once, and I've only seen Rogue One once, so maybe I'd have to compare them. I need to do a rewatch. I'll do a rewatch. Get back to you. When is Zondark going to appear in the fanfic? I will try my best to get Zondark. Zondark, which reminds me, we need to get back to some Berserk with the boys. That's got to happen soon. I mean, this week, by the way, I'm probably gonna try to put out a Dunkin' Egg and work on Davos some this week, but we'll see. We'll see. Can we talk about how ironic it is that after Mance goes to Long Lake, Flint and Nori bring a wet nurse to Karstark's wedding? Um, hmm. So Flint and Nori, I do have to say they get to the wall way too fast. By the way, that's some. I mean, it's not like Tyrion level jetpacking, but they get to the wall really fucking fast. Um, but they must be sent invitations somehow, either by Raven or by somebody on horse. Like somehow they are invited to the wedding and they get there. And so when the invitation is sent, whether in person or by Raven, it must mention that that there's a baby at the wall, and if you could bring a wet nurse, please do so. Otherwise, it's just like, why the fuck would you be bringing a wet nurse with you randomly, right? And geographically, it doesn't really make sense about Mance going to Long Lake, because Long Lake is east of the King's Road, while Flint and Nori are coming from west. So I think it's more that they were asked to by Jon Snow, I think. Yes, all right, I get it. The comet is ice, but everyone sees it as fire. Yes, I think so. Foreign countries buying bonds, what strengthens it? I think buying bonds might increase money supply. So theoretically, it should lower the value of the dollar, which would make our exports more competitive. But so many other things, like, I mean, it's people would also argue that the more competition for bonds would decrease the interest rate, and therefore cause other people to, because if the low interest, that would increase the interest rate, and that would cause other banks in general, like people not to put their money in bonds, and that would have more money supply. So foreign countries buying bonds should inflate a currency, which would make your exports more competitive. Inflating currency is, a good thing too, So, you and Red Team Review are elitists because you do not believe Old Nan is Leaf and Nettles and Penny's pig and Fred Flintstone. I'm trying to think. I mean, you're right that Old Nan does leave the story around the same, before Leaf enters the story. So I can't disprove that, like, Nettles stayed alive, pretended to be Old Nan, and then escaped Ramsay and pretended to be Leaf. I don't know how she's getting all the way to the Essos to be Penny's pig, though. But I'm with you. Yes, all of this is true. Countries wanting to buy more American Treasury bills brings higher demand, lower price for U.S. debt. Yes, that gives less interest. Yes, meaning U.S. debt is made smaller and cheaper to service. That's true. Like to borrow money when you want to large demand of American debt, then the U.S. government can supply. Yes, that's all true. That the high demand for U.S. T-bills means that we can run a higher debt than another country. That's true. All true. The Preston fragment. 400 pages being 1 month is so demoralizing. LOL. Yeah, I know. But it's about the story happening, not the time going by. Yeah, Quentyn will have to march a few months in marching to Volantis. Yes, he if we look at the map, and he's on foot, or he'll at least have a lot of people on foot. So if we look at, like, we need the map of the whole world here. But yeah, the distance between, this map is as good as any. I'll throw this one on. This map is as good as any. It's as good as any. But you can see that, like, oh my God, if Quentyn marches from Marine to Volantis, oh God, that is that is a couple months. That's at least 2 months to go to take the demon road. Yeah, 2 months on the demon road at least. Because Winterfell to the Wall is about what? That's 3 weeks on. That's 3 weeks on horseback, on foot. Yeah, maybe even 3 months. Quentin will need like 3 months. Oh, God damn. God damn the demon road. God damn the demon road. It's a long time. And then once there, he can. Or maybe he should. Maybe not sure what's going to happen to him on the demon road, but maybe he'll eventually get horses and go faster. But man, that's a long time. That's like 3 months just to get 2 or 3 months just to get Quentin to Volantis, and then let's say another couple weeks to get him to Westeros. Oof, oof, yeah. I mean, he'll be landing in Westeros, so, but that makes me want to. It makes me, makes me pause about Quentin taking the demon road. Damn. But that means fuck. Victarion is definitely going to be first back. By far, Victarion will be first back with his dragon. Despite having read the books, I refuse to believe that Stannis would be misogynistic like that. I mean, I think he is. I think he's misogynistic. Oh my God. Preston, did you catch the 4.5 hour debate between Ethan Klein and Hassan Piker? I thought they were not on talking terms anymore. I mean, Ethan Klein, he's not a fast thinker. So I imagine that Hassan Piker would just Hassan Piker now has many, many, many years of debate underneath him. He's going to be able to, he's going to, no matter what they'd be arguing, even if Ethan Klein happens to be right on the issue, like Hassan Piker is going to be like faster talker. I can't believe they talked 4.5 hours. I'm sure it was about Israel, but which I would lean towards Hassan's opinion on that. In a Warhammer game, Skaven shoot a vessel into the sky to mimic a comet. Their intent was to trick other factions into thinking prophecy was coming true, starting wars. Maybe George R. Martin has a similar intent. Huh. Yeah, I'm trying to think. What could time traveling Bran or whoever shoot into the sky to cause people to believe that there was a comet? It's got to linger. The thing about comets, and I remember Hale Bopp specifically because Hale Bopp was, it was a big comet and it was just in the sky for everyone to see, huge. But it just floats there, it's just station, to our eyes, it's stationary. So what kind of thing looks stationary? It's got to be as far away as the moon or farther to look stationary, and even the moon, you can slowly, if it's near the horizon, you can see it kind of come up and down slowly, like watching a clock, watching the shorthand on a clock. It doesn't look like it's moving, but it's moving, So it's just going to be floating there for a week, maybe 2 weeks or whatever. So it's got to be something in there. It's got to be. It just seems beyond the technology of even time traveling Bran. Oh, can Alistair Florent be alive? Maybe Stannis pulled a manse on him. He behaves uncharacteristically when burning, begging and pleading, while imprisoned, proud and stoic when burned. Huh. No Florent desertions. That's a very interesting point about Alistair Florent, because one would think being imprisoned, um, you'd be proud and stoic, and being burned, you're going to be begging and pleading, right? Like that's the general idea is that like burning is the worst way to die, so you're going to be huh. You're right. Lord Florent had been strong and silent as the Queen's men bound him to the post, as dignified as any half naked man could hope to be. But as the flames licked up his legs, he began to scream, and his screams had blown them all the way to Eastwatch by the Sea. Meanwhile, in a storm of swords, I must apologize for my appearance, sir. My chest were lost when the last was overran the camp. I escaped with no more than mail in my back. I see. Folly, that's folly. You're totally right. That you are right that it's completely inconsistently written. But if I were going to say what's really going on here, what I mean, I think even though I know people love Davos 4, they do, but I think Davos is probably the worst written story of A Dance with Dragons. And I think it's probably the case that if we look at how the sentence is structured, let's see here. Where's my... Sorry, I'm trying to get the right window to show up. To show you the Search of Ice and Fire. Where's my Search of Ice and Fire? It's like not coming up. I'm sorry. Hold on a second. Let's close all my fucking windows. I've got way too many open anyway. Okay. Let's try this again. There it is. Okay. I mean, it's an excellent point. It is. Alistair Florent is acting completely out of character. But if I really am saying what do I think is going on here, well, George R. R. Martin has this line. Lord Florent had been strong and silent as a queen man bound him to the post, as dignified as a half-naked man could be. But as the flames licked up his legs, he had to scream, and his screams had bled them all the way to Eastwatch by the Sea. So, if the Red Women could be believed, that's a very long sentence for a Davos chapter. But I think he has in the second half of the sentence this screaming. And so he just kind of wants to write something that he's not screaming in the first half. And, and so you have this this idea that the flames broke him down, that he was dignified, but then the flames made him into a screamer, and then the screamer sent you to Eastwatch. So I think it's George's writing that produced the contrast that he wanted specifically in this sentence, that produced Florent acting dignified here. I agree with you that it is completely not his character. You're right that in A Storm of Swords, he is cowardly, and he tries to sell Stannis out and all this sort of stuff, and is constantly acting kind of wimpy and bargaining and stuff like that. And for him to go out there trying to look dignified or trying to act dignified is weird. But I think it's purely George trying to construct that sentence. But you are right. But could he have pulled a Mance on him? Who'd be the other prisoners? Who would be the prisoner that he swapped? That'd be the question. What other prisoners are there to swap out for Alistair Florent? Somebody's burning, right? But yeah, I agree with you that it's inconsistent writing. Also, the Bran chapter where he runs into Varamir feels shoehorned in just to support the consciousness survives, death for wargs. Varamir's point of view wouldn't continue due to the plot, but it shows he lives. Yeah, I mean, Varamir as a POV completely exists just to talk about warging, right? That's it. Just to talk about warging. It was definitely not originally planned. George obviously at one time only wanted one book. I mean, he wanted his 5-year gap, and then he put in his mega prologue. There wasn't going to be any Varamir. There wasn't going to be any Pate. He didn't come up with that idea for a long time. But you're absolutely right that it's just there to add more about warging. And actually, when I remember the first time I read A Dance with Dragons and thinking what the fuck is this? Who's Varamir? Who's Varamir Sixskins? You got to go back to Storm and be like, oh, he's one of Mance's random lieutenants, and you're like, what? And why am I reading about Varamir's backstory and his so Preston's dislike of Star Wars prequels is his biggest L. I think people really have romanticized the Star Wars prequels. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy that they've gotten so much love over the years. George Lucas without adults in the room isn't a functional filmmaker. I would argue that George Lucas is more of an artsy filmmaker than you think. More of an artsy filmmaker than anyone thinks. And that he was never really a blockbuster maker. He when he does stuff, he thinks about the art of it and film theory and stuff like that. He's very, keep in mind this guy, he was his group of buddies was Coppola and stuff. They had an entire different world thinking about film. So I think that his he's doing art films, and we're all wanting popcorn flicks, and there was that kind of break. um Comet bright by day, much closer than moon. Could be a rogue planet. Stuff with orbits work like the plague star. It could be. I'm trying to think, but it has a tail, right? So they definitely describe it as a tail, or being a slash across the sky. So it definitely has the shape of a comet and everything. So it I mean, it's got to, whatever it is, it's got to have some sort of tail like a comet. I mean, maybe it's a ship like the Plague Star that has a exhaust coming out the back or something like that. Mm. Yeah, the prequels have aged better than fans would have guessed when it was cool to trash it. That's true. No one was expecting that today. People are like, no, the prequels are great. Like it's amazing to me that the Ewoks suck more than Jar Jar. They're both pretty bad. Um, I mean, I think that like, I mean, it's an odd thing. Like the more time and like artsy homage and everything is given to Jar Jar. Like he's put in there because George Lucas is trying to pay homage to Charlie Chaplin movies and things like that, and that sort of thing. Um, while the Ewoks were just kind of thrown in as this stand-in for Viet Cong, um, and I don't know. I mean, like, which one's gonna stand the test of time? I actually probably, I guess, Jar Jar, because Jar Jar, like, I guess Charlie Chaplin is probably more timeless than like the feelings about Vietnam, which are very specifically boomer. Um, so yeah, maybe. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think what's unforgivable about Jar Jar in general is that Jar Jar is comic relief in a movie that's not dark enough to need comic relief. So it's just also just way too many fart jokes. There's way too many fart jokes in general in Star Wars. But and then he didn't even stick to his guns. Like if you want to stick to your guns, George Lucas, like put Jar Jar in the later two movies. you know? um yeah, I do want to revisit Rogue One after finishing Andor and see what I think about it. Uh, Beric wasn't resurrected by the comets and the dragons. Um, Beric. Let me think. No, because so Beric dies at Mummer's Ford, which is going to happen, and the mountain kills him, and then the mountain goes on to participate in the Battle of the Green Fork. So we know that Beric dies and is resurrected sometime in a Game of Thrones. So he he's resurrected. His resurrection happens before the comet, like well before the comet. And I'm trying to think, placing it exactly, like where when around it would happen. But yeah, I mean it's gonna be some time. I'm trying to think. Well, let me think about that for a second. Because Tyrion. Let's see here. Tyrion. The Green Fork is. What, Tyrion 8? I'm trying to get this right. Yeah. Green Fork is Tyrion 8. And so. Ned's in prison in the black cells for a while when this is all going on. And they go off for Mummer's Ford. What is that? Is that Ned? Ned 13? No. Ned 10. Yeah, Ned 10. Or Ned 11, I'm sorry. So somewhere between Eddard 11 and the Green Fork, which is Tyrion 7, Tyrion 8, Beric Dondarrion is resurrected. So we're talking some time, some months before, because Game of Thrones things take a lot longer. But yeah, I think it's something like that. And it's not like they had to have resurrected him fairly fast because corpses are going to rot within a couple days. The comet amplifies blood magic's power. I mean, that's the idea. Is like it's amplifying something, whether it's amplifying magic or if it's amplifying people's telepathic abilities. I can't imagine Preston would disagree much with Ethan Klein on Israel Palestine. I mean, I'm not quite sure of his position, but I know he's married to an Israeli, but I mean, I generally believe in a two-state solution, that Palestine needs to be a state like now, that the Palestinian Authority should be established as its government with essentially the Oslo lines as their borders, and that needs to happen like now. And then I believe that the Palestinian right of return, like full right of return, is not like necessarily realistic. But I think if you could take the refugees and argue that Israel takes 1 million, and maybe America could take 1 million, and then Europe could take 1 million or something like that. You could make an agreement about right of return or something. But that's my position. I don't think I doubt. I'm sure like Ethan Klein talks about Israel needing security and safety and all this sort of stuff. And I'm more of the belief of like, if you gave the Palestinian Authority a state, the security comes from that. Like, you're removing reasons for people being angry, except among like the most extreme. And then you can bring in UN peacekeepers and things like that. But yeah, it's not my position is like not. It's not any sort of crazy position. Like believing that like the two-state solution was U.S. policy up until Trump too. I mean, like the two-state solution is like shouldn't be an extreme thing, and like the Oslo lines should not be like an extreme position, But whatever. Hi, Preston. Really love the Mecca video you did. Would you be open to doing more videos of that nature in the future? Cheers. Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of different travel videos that I can talk about. I mean, the Mecca one is probably the most extreme, crazy one where people haven't, But I could take old pictures of me in Mongolia or something, or I can't really bring up like because of work, I can't really bring up like Afghanistan or Iraq pictures or anything like that. It would have to be like things I did on vacation, you know. But yeah, there might be some interesting things that I could bring up, travel wise. From voice discussion, what would convince Dany to go all the way to Westeros, given that she rules Essos? Protect Aegon, chase Victarion and her dragons. I think, yeah, I think the latter. I think chasing the dragons, like getting her children back, is the thing that would motivate her. Like she comes back to Marine and finds that somebody has stolen like Viserion and Rhaegal, and she needs to go to Westeros to get them. I think that's a pretty good kick in the butt, and I think it works a lot better than the the show, which just kind of said like you had got everything you wanted. You got your army and you got your navy. No, that's not what she wanted. She wanted to learn how to be a queen. Okay, she wanted to learn how to rule. Um, but I think if we're talking like she comes back to Marine and she wouldn't care that at this point that she doesn't that she's not um, that she's not mature enough. She needs to get her children back. You know, she needs to get Viserion and Rhaegal back. So I do think that like yeah, chasing Victarion, chasing Quentin, you know, getting her dragons back is would be her prime motivation. And then she's like, well, I might as well. People are going to take it as invasion, but she needs to do it. She needs to do it. So I think you're actually right. I hadn't actually thought about it. What's funny about that is I hadn't thought about it like which like what her motivation. But the minute she gets back to Marine and finds her dragons gone, it's like fuck, we gotta go. We gotta go like yesterday. Um, but you're absolutely right. But thank you. I that actually makes the story much clearer now that you like just lay it out like that. Um, but yeah, it seems like that's just the natural thing that she would do when she comes back now. She definitely has the motivation that she didn't even want to come home. They dragged her. I didn't want to. They kept dragging me back in. I tried to get out, but they just kept dragging me back in. Question, questions for my father Preston. Found a girl, but have been a bachelor for a while now. How do I shift to settling down? Um, hmm. Well, I mean, I think you know you take everything in. I'm trying to think about that because like you know I want to say that my progression was pretty gradual and slow. I got married pretty late. Um, you know, my 20s was mostly well, my early 20s was, you know, nothing. And then I then I kind of became like a girlfriend guy. Like, you know, I'd go through like serial monogamy and you know, I'd date a girl for 2 years, date a girl for 3 months, you know, that kind of thing. Like I would just I'd then just have a girlfriend. Um and then, you know, I met somebody that I was just like, yep, I want to marry her and that's it. And then you know, you eventually just um so for me it wasn't like an active shift on like how do I do it or something. I'd been a girlfriend guy for a while and it was very comfortable for me. Like some people aren't comfortable with people in their space, you know, but like once you became like once you're a you know a person that's in relationships you're just like used to that. Like oh yeah, like you know like I'm a man with a hair dryer. Why do I own a hair dryer? Because women use hair dryers. Like I don't use a hair dryer. I never used a hair dryer, but I had a hair dryer because girlfriends would need a hair dryer. Like there's these things like that. Um, so I don't know. I mean, I guess my recommendation is just to take it day by day. Like you know, hang out together, live together, see how it goes. Like what's gonna happen is that you're gonna be hanging out with somebody and you're gonna be like, well, I'm at your place all the time, or you're at my place all the time. Why are we paying two rents? and then you're not paying two rents. You know, like that's usually how it goes. Um, and you know, so I don't know, like the I don't know. I don't have very good advice. You know, because I definitely remember the times where like I just needed me time and all that kind of stuff. And then that just kind of went away, and you just kind of are comfortable in being a girlfriend guy. So how to make the shift? I don't know. I don't know. You'll do it when you're ready. You'll do it when you're ready. But you know, if she doesn't annoy you and you're fine, like being around each other every day, you'll eventually be like, why are we paying two rents? But I don't know. But yeah, it's easier as well when all of your friends kind of go away and they're doing the same thing. Like it's tough. It's tough like transitioning when you've got like your friends are like, let's go out. Well, you know, I was the last one of my friend group, you know, so my friends were gone. They'd all moved on before me. Any plans for more Mystery Science Theater style videos like you and the boys did with Doorways, more Beauty and the Beast? That was primo content. Well, thank you. That was pretty fun. Um, could we do it with Beauty and the Beast? Beauty and the Beast is really fucking boring. But let me think about it. Let me think about something that would be pretty fun for us to watch. Because I do like stuff like that. I think the big thing that was special about Doorways is um, there was no copyright infringement because no one fucking cared about it and things like that. I might be able to pull it off for some random Beauty and the Beast episode. Just trying to think of. I'll come up with something. But yeah, obviously I like having conversations with Carmine and Trey, and it's always a fun time, you know. So. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. George Lucas, more like George Pukas, am I right? Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of similarities between George Lucas and George R. Martin. A lot of similarities. They're both two guys obsessed with Vietnam, total boomers. Um, you know, but kind of thrown into like this billionaire lifestyle, multi-millionaire lifestyle. Both try to hide their double chins with beards. There's a lot of similarities between them, despite being, you know, two completely different mediums. But yeah, I mean, they have the same political alignment. They are trying to use their art to highlight, you know, the problems with like um, war. I think George Lucas was a little more focused on fascist governments, and George R. Martin was more focused on war in general. But it all comes out of Vietnam and who they were, and you know their success. I don't know, like alienating them, and I don't know, making them have nervous breakdowns. But and their obsessions with like pop culture are very similar too. Like they the two of them both make weird references to the 50s and the things they liked when they were young, the pop culture they liked that they were when they were young, that the rest of the world doesn't necessarily like connected with, and things like that, you know. Like when George Lucas, you know, has Indiana Jones like run into aliens, like that's very much because he liked reading these like um pop stories, and they transitioned from like adventure stories to alien stories, and there was at a certain time, and you know he wanted to reflect that in the movie he was putting out, and it's like, okay, great, we don't care. Like we don't, like what it's these weird things like that he pops in there, like his own personal experiences from his childhood that he's throwing in, you know. But they're very similar guys actually. The prequels rise above the sum of their parts and tell a story with the characterization being believable, in my opinion. Look, I think there's a lot to like about the prequels. Don't get me wrong. They're very, very well thought out. George Lucas put in a lot of fucking time. He put a lot of time into filming them. He put a lot of time into every single scene thinking about it. That's all very true. I don't think it's an unrealistic story. You're not doing anything like too crazy. All the characters are acting as they should. You know, there's some bad dialogue. The other Star Wars movies all bad dialogue. You know, they're very ambitious. You got to remember that like all the CGI at the time was very ambitious and things like that. Like, don't get me wrong. I just think they're also poorly acted and poorly paced. And like, you know, and I don't know. It's with really sterile shots. Like George Lucas thinks about these shots a lot. He thinks a lot about film theory. I get it. But just because he has a belief about film theory and he's making the exact movie that he wanted to make doesn't mean that I necessarily like aesthetically like it. That's my problem with it, you know. Like I get it all, you know. But you know, I understand. Like I'll grant that the prequels are not bad from a lack of effort. There a lot of effort was put in and a lot of thought was put in, and I'll grant George Lucas that he put his blood, sweat, and tears. He put his soul into those movies. Absolutely. I just don't necessarily think they're great. I mean, midichlorians are everywhere. The thing is that like George Lucas, had he done and George Lucas was thinking about doing a 789, and he wanted to do it on the midichlorians. He wanted to do it on the Wills, and so that, you know, he wanted to get into that more, and get into the, but you know, midichlorians, it's fine, whatever. It's not the worst aspect of things. I think the big thing is he fundamentally chose a little kid to be going wee and stuff like that, and had an animated like rabbit like walking around, like you had a Bugs Bunny, like you literally had a Bugs Bunny walking around your movie with a tiny little kid, and all the characters were a little flat, you know. 100 Ewoks or one Wookiee. See, my problem with Ewoks is they look like they shouldn't be very good fighters, right? They're sitting there going, boop, 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 like, and yet in practice, they're sitting there like tearing stormtroopers apart for some reason. So it's like, what am I supposed to base this on? Like, it seemed like like when you watch Return of the Jedi, it seems like 25 Ewoks are defeating like 200 Imperials. Like, that's what it looks like. I understand that if you read like extended universe novels, they're like, no, there were actually like thousands of Ewoks and they overwhelmed them. And you're like, I don't know. I watched that movie. It looked like there were 25 fucking Ewoks. And like only one of them seemed to have died. And they like made a big deal out of the one dying. So, I mean, the evidence on screen is that these Ewoks are insanely effective. Like somehow these 25 Ewoks were able to take two trees and like pull them up, like build pulleys or something to get the trees go all the way up, and then have an AT-AT like come in between and have the trees come down and like crush it. Um, Somehow they were able to do that. Somehow they were able to make like gliders and shit. Uh, I mean, when it really comes down to it, like even though they look completely harmless and stupid, um, and designed clearly to just sell toys, like 100 Ewoks. I mean, 100 Ewoks seems like 4 times what we saw defeat those Imperials. So I have to go with the Ewoks. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Um, and or sequel seasons during the original trilogy timeline for Spy Rebellion and Imperial activity during Hot War. What events would likely be covered? Um, well, I mean, obviously Andor dies, so we can't have him in it. But if we are talking about like the original timeline, um, there's a lot of discussion about what happened in between Empire and Return of the Jedi. Like supposedly, like a year passes, um, and the question is, how did Luke get so good at the Force? Like, what were they doing? Luke mentions with Leia some events that happened in the background and stuff like that. So I think they even had that uh, Shadows of the Empire series like happens, stuff like that. I mean, that's extended universe, but nonetheless, like there's a lot of time that you could play around in there. And then I think there's a lot of time as well between Star Wars and Empire, because they do talk about like some close calls on Han, right? So in between the movies, so you could have anything you want, I suppose, in there. Like you could invent literally anything. Now, you don't have anything as big as the Death Star, but um, I suppose you could come up with some little random side plot. But I'm trying to think of like events. Hmm. I mean, you could deal with how the Empire came back from like the destruction of the Death Star to all of a sudden be winning at the beginning of Empire. Like that's a big movement, right? That's never explained. Like they have the Death Star destroyed, and they should look incredibly weak, but instead the next movie begins and they're right on top. Um, and it's the same with In Between Empire and Return of the Jedi. Is we end Empire Strikes Back, and the rebellion looks like it's just been shattered, and like Hoth happens, and they escape, and then they lose Han, and everything looks disastrous at that point. And then we begin the next movie, and they've got a fucking armada. They've got the Mon Calamari and all these ships, and they're ready to fucking take out the Empire. How did that happen? So those are two shifts that need to be explained. How did the Empire go from being on the ropes to all of a sudden crushing the rebellion? To how did the rebellion go from being on the ropes to all of a sudden being a match for the Empire? So I guess you could deal with that. Man, that's messy, isn't it? They didn't really explain. They didn't really explain any of that. This is me picking apart the original trilogy, which I can totally do. Cold planet with elliptical orbit would have a huge tail. Could have one and not know it. We could have one and not know it? Really? Hmm. Because I'm trying, like, there would have to, we would definitely see like the light reflecting off of like some sort of tail, right? I'm trying to think, like, why do comets have tails? Right? That's like as they approach the sun, the heat causes the ice in the comet's nucleus to vaporize. releasing dust and gas particles. And then they're pushed away from the solar wind. So the comet only gets its tail when it's actually close to the sun. And then like freezes up again and leaves. Huh. Some interesting stuff here. But a cold planet. I'm trying to think of what a cold planet would like. How would that add like? Is the cold planet like where the others are from? Like, what's the cold planets like? Like, why do we need a cold planet versus um a comet? Anyway, enjoyed your book, Preston. Thank you, Suki4040. It took me a long time. You've got a very diplomatic way of explaining politics. I always feel like I'm the least diplomatic person in the world. I always feel like people have never described me as diplomatic. I'm always just you know, people say I lack tact. Somehow I'm here. The on Dany, I figured Dragon Rider Quentin would team up with her to help chase Rhaegal when it comes to a dragon Dothraki and Sullied Viserion's hope. Hmm. I mean, that would certainly help Quentin get back faster, but same time, like, why have three dragons if like this is one big thing about like the show. They do break off one dragon, right? So that helps explain why there'd be like two dragons. But why does there need to be three dragons? You know, like you'd want those three dragons to be broken up at some point so they could do different things. Thus, why have three? You know. So this is why like I really like the idea of Victarion stealing one dragon and Quentin stealing the other dragon, and then Danny's like, "Fuck, I got some work to do when I get back to, got to get the band back together." You know, if she has two, it's just I don't know. Feels like she's OP'd. You know, she's got two dragons. She has experience riding one, and the other people only have one dragon. So just to even the playing field, you know, or make her seem like she's the underdog. Oh, this is funny. I tried to get out, but they kept dragging me back in. That's pretty good. Two states didn't end with 47. This administration, the person still pretending like was ever a real policy. I mean, no, it was a real policy. Like it was a real policy. Like that's all there was to it. Like when I don't know where you're going with that. Like there was support for the Palestinians under Biden and before Trump. Trump cut off all assistance to the Palestinians. Biden resumed it, and then he cut it off again. Like there was clearly aid and assistance going to the Palestinian Authority from the United States. Like that this wasn't a pretending thing. Like we had real programs that were going to the Palestinian Authority. Congress actually passed a law that we couldn't give money directly to the Palestinian Authority. So we had to start giving them to Palestinian building. But yeah, that's all like what the United States was doing. Like we gave money to the UN, we gave money to UNRWA. Like we were doing USAID programs. We had something called the Economic Support Fund was giving $300 million West Bank. I mean, all that, all that. No, I mean now USAID is shattered, but and won't be doing anything anywhere. But like I don't like you're just completely wrong here. Like you're just completely wrong. Like now, just because it didn't achieve its goals, like is one like it's one thing, but the United States definitely had a policy, and we were spending money on the Palestinians. We definitely supported the two-state solution. Like that was definitely the goal. I mean, Biden was pushing for the Palestinian Authority to take over Gaza. If you guys remember, that was rejected by Netanyahu, but that was the push. Like Biden was pushing for the Palestinian Authority to take over Gaza. Like that's all. Like you can go and find these speeches from Secretary Blinken. Like all this is there. So I mean, what you're saying, One Love, is just it's just not true. Like you can look up this stuff. Like you can Google U.S. assistance to Palestinians. There's a great CRS report, Congressional Research Service, and it does the whole thing. You can look it up. But I'm sorry, Juan, but you're just wrong. Like the United States had a policy to support Palestinians, like and to support the two-state solution. We were very consistent on that. I mean, until the Trump administration. One PJ, 8 Carmines, who wins? I mean, 8 Carmines is a lot of Carmines, man. I mean, 2 like here's the thing. I think it was the YouTuber Jose brought this up. He brought up a really good point. I'll give a shout out to the if you guys want to, Jose, accent on the E, is a YouTuber. He makes good videos. But he made this great point that the kind of like manosphere sexist YouTube that's constantly complaining about girl bosses, they're always angry about like when a girl beats up a guy in a movie, when a woman beats up a man, and they're like, oh, it's just so unrealistic that it just takes me out of it. Okay, fine. But also remember that like one person defeating 2 people in a fight is also massively unrealistic. Okay, like 2 people is going to win in a fight 99% of the time. Okay, it's much greater advantage than man over woman. It's 2 people over 1 person. But how often do you see in a movie somebody like fighting 2 versus 1, or even 10 versus 1, and the 1 defeats the 10, and yet they're all cool with that? You know, that's not unrealistic, and that doesn't take you out of it. And he points out that like we're conditioned to think what's normal and is what we see in movies, like growing up. And so when something is different, we're like, oh, it takes us out of it, like, you know. But in fact, it's like, you know, 2 people, like 1 person defeating 2 people in a fight is ridiculous. So yeah, 2 Carmines is going to beat 1 Preston. I mean, come on. It doesn't need to be 8. 2. The dragons have midichlorians. All right, almost to the end. Almost to the end. Yay. Oh, hey Preston, when are we getting the audiobook for Ghosts and Indians? I did a recording once on a previous version of it. I have to go back and do it again, but I have to be motivated again. But that's it. But yeah, I don't know. I'll try. It's just then I have to look on like I don't know. I mean, was so happy to be done. I'm exasperated because I'm like, I just, it's like I feel like I got to the end of Ghosts and Indians, and then it's like, oh, I still got to do the audiobook. Oh, I'll see what I can do. But it's going to take some time. Um, um, the U.S. needs to cut all foreign aid and bring every single American soldier back home, close all the military bases, and stop being the biggest bully in the world. Only then can America be an example. So here's the problem with that. First of all, like, our foreign aid now is just, we don't have any foreign aid going on right now. So there's that. That's so you got your first wish. But as for closing all military bases and what you're trying to say is that the U.S. shouldn't have a foreign policy anymore. That the U.S. that the world would somehow be better off if the U.S. didn't have any foreign policy, and that we didn't spend money. For instance, the United States has a program called PEPFAR. PEPFAR provides HIV relief for Africa. It's the greatest thing that George W. Bush ever did. I hate George W. Bush, but I will grant that PEPFAR is incredible. PEPFAR probably saved 25 million people's lives. Now you could say, oh, well, what? They don't matter? Like, oh, the United States needs to pack it up and go home. And this is one big problem is with USAID being shattered, is that PEPFAR funding can't get to people, and we're talking lots of people are going to die. Our aid for tuberculosis around the world, things like this, So one, just you're saying, oh, the United States can be admired by just letting people die. Like, it's weird. It's a weird position. But the biggest problem with the position that the United States should just have no foreign policy and just pack up and go home is that not every country has that position. Like, obviously, Russia, Iran, and China have foreign policy positions. So the minute the United States leaves as the partner of choice from places, these other countries come in and become the partner of choice. So when you say, like, oh, America needs to, like, leave and stop being the bully, what you're saying is you'd rather have Russia or China or Iran as the partner of choice for people than the United States, because that is what would happen. And the United States doesn't even spend very much money. Like, I mean, on foreign assistance, like, it's less than 1% of our budget. Like, it's a very, very small amount of money. But for what the United States spends on foreign assistance, it keeps out Russia, China, Iran. And so that's the thing, man. Like, that's the thing when you say, like, oh, the United States needs to stop doing all this. Like, it's just short-sighted, and it's not realistic. And usually when people say something like this, they have some sort of interest. They have some sort of interest. Maybe they like Russia, or they like China, or they like Iran. But that's the story. Like, U.S. foreign policy, like, it is needed. Foreign assistance is needed. It does great things, Will Trump release the Epstein files? Why would he release files that contain him? No, of course not. Preston, have you ever played D&D? Of course I played D&D. Though it's funny because I get invited to play a lot of D&D from people, and I just don't have like 8 hours to give. But yeah, D&D. But keep in mind, I played a lot of D&D back, like first edition D&D, back when all the rules were crazy with unearthed arcana and stuff like that. But yeah, yeah. what was really fun about? I mean, I think D&D also, like, it's one of the reasons I really liked getting into Ultima. It's really one of the reasons I really like Baldur's Gate and things like that. And you get into those like type of type of type of things. I was a big fan. Um, I trust she more than Trump. Yeah, sounds great. I mean, the thing is like the days of Trump will eventually end. You know, privatize foreign policy to leave it to corporations to be the world police. hmm I mean, I'll tell you, U.S. assistance is you know keeping Ukraine free. So that's a good thing, and it'd be really horrible if that assistance ended. And it's one of the things people fear, but you know, all this is true. Trump has already indirectly killed upwards of 1 million people. Only increase as long as USAID is trash. RFK Jr. and Dr. Oz are in charge of health. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the anti-vax RFK movement or the return of measles, the trashing. I mean, the backsliding on tuberculosis, the ruining of USAID and PEPFAR, and it's just selling out Ukraine. I mean, the list goes on and on, man. It's just everything is just getting trashed. Um, you say that all guns should be banned and that people shouldn't have access to automatic rifles, but people haven't been able to buy automatic weapons for like 40 years. I mean, I would say people shouldn't have access to semi-automatic weapons or anything that you can use a bump stock on or whatever. I mean, when look, like gun advocates, they love to come in here and being like, you don't know every little thing and every technicality about guns. Look, what I know is that people have weapons in America now that look like they should be for war fighting, and they have no other fucking function except war fighting. And so like that didn't exist when I was young. Like people actually like when I was young, people hunted with rifles. And when I say rifle, I don't mean a fucking AR-15. Okay, when people like I'm talking like one bullet, like rifles. Okay, when I was young, people did that. Oh my god, not like let's be honest. Like there is something that's changed in American culture where now there's this fetishization of weaponry, um, to the point where they even admit it. People start talking about how they're amosexuals and stuff as a joke or whatever. Like the number of firearm owners has gone down, but the number of firearms has skyrocketed because these people start collecting like 50 or something. They start worshiping these fucking things. Like it's just weird. It's just really fucking weird. And like everybody knows if these semi-automatic assault rifles weren't around, like um, that there'd be fewer deaths. Like everybody fucking knows that. Everybody fucking knows it. Like we can look at Australia as the fucking example, but they sit there and they lie and they're like, no, it's actually creating a safer world. No, it's not. And no one believes that. You just think they're fucking cool and you want to go out in the backyard and fucking blow shit up. Like just fucking admit it. Just fucking admit it. And you like going around owning the libs and getting people's faces and the look on people's faces when you're like, oh yeah, I own 55 guns. You love that shit. You love going into parties and showing people your guns and shit. And how you took your 5-year-old nephew to the range and you shocked some liberal. Like we all fucking know what's really fucking going on. It's a fucking metal tube that shoots that like that shoots lead. Like, it's nothing. It's nothing to fucking like worship. And that's what it is. It's what it's become. It's just a fucking worship. Um, one rifle versus 50, 30 to 50 hogs. Depends on what depends on the rifle, right? I mean, technically an M4 is a rifle, right? So it's just it is cringe consumerism. You're absolutely right, Cal Poly. Like it's actually you're correctly highlighting that, like, even further back. Like, if you actually step back even further and say, like, what's the general problem with Americans and many people in the world, is that they think their identity is based on the products they consume, which is really weird, you know? Like, if I buy these fashionable clothes, I'm a fashionable person, right? If I surround myself with manly things, I become a man, right? You know? We're all guilty to some degree. Like, you go into your house, like you go into my house, I've got fucking maps and shit and trinkets from where I've been, right? So that means, like, I feel like I'm an international person, an international cultured person. Sure. I also like to be reminded of the trips. But, like, yeah, I'm guilty of it to some degree. But, like, you're not what you consume. Like, you're not a man because you have a gun. Like, it's pretty silly. Like, it's because I bought this metal tube and it makes the libs nervous. I'm a man, you know. Like, do I have a favorite car? I don't actually have a favorite car. Um, I'll tell you that, like, certain cars I think are enjoyable to drive. They're you know they're make driving easier. You know, some cars have better turning radiuses, some have better handling. I get it. You know, I've kind of enjoyed BMWs. I think, you know, but at the same time, you know, I think Acuras are really good cars too. You know, I once test drove an Infiniti. It was really nice, you know, but at the same time, like, I don't really care that much. Like, you know, I admit that there are cars that are better, that they're fun to drive, but they're also, like, expensive and they're hard, you know, sometimes they're more expensive to fix, you know, stuff like that. I mean, I own a Prius. Like, it's not that big, you know, like, it's fine. It gets me from one place to another, you know. Um, oh my God. But yeah. Nor did it have. Australia never had more guns than people, nor did it have well organized far right militias. Their militias they're not that well organized. I mean, we could easily get rid of the guns in America. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you know, I mean, people are attempting harder things. For example, the current administration is attempting trying to get rid of undocumented people in America, which, you know, that's not going to happen. There's 20 million of them. You know, like, people try. Everybody says these things are impossible. You could definitely, you know, it's fine. And I certainly don't fear these fucking right wing militias filled with, like, these morbidly obese idiots. Like, no, like, I don't. They're not to be feared. Um, they're fucking idiots. You know, you also just, you know, it's only a matter of time if you know that you can make something illegal, and over time, like, things rust, things eventually fall apart. Bullets don't last forever. Oh, but you can make new ones, and they're not going to do that. They're fucking lazy. But yeah, your friend has 100 guns. Like, he could have invested that money in a nice mutual fund. You know, like, yeah. See, I don't buy this shit. Like, you know, this sort of, like, stuff. These sort of messages are to try to intimidate people. Like, oh, it's, you know, this hypothetical situation where you're going to disarm these right wing militias, where the cops, you know, they're all going to be behind. No, they're not. No, they're not. No, So like, it's just, no, it's just not like, you could make some, you could do it if you wanted. Again, you have to have the votes and the politicians. But yeah, do I believe that like right wing militias would rise up because we want to take away their guns? No, no. Do I see people rising up because people are taking away like babies, babies that have cancer and deporting them? No, people are fucking cowards. People are fucking cowards and they don't have any fucking conviction. Come on. Do I think? No, I don't think right wing militias are anything to fear. Yeah, so many people that own guns make the whole personality. I don't understand it, man. The point of banning weapons would only prevent people on the center and the left from protecting their communities. Who protects their communities with their guns, man? We've got police forces that we pay salaries to. Like, where do you fucking think we live, man? You think America is like some like crime-ridden place? Like, do you think like people don't do this shit? Like no one's sitting like no one's. I'm not sitting there at night with my gun and like, gotta protect my family. Gotta protect my family. No, I've got fucking police. There's like civil society here, man. Like, like what the fuck? Like, what is this idea that this is like a bumper sticker fight kind of ideas, man? That like, if you take away firearms, only outlaws will have them, or whatever. If you outlaw firearms, only outlaws will have them. That was the fucking bumper sticker, right? Is that where you're getting your like belief, like your beliefs from? Like fucking bumper stickers? Like, who's fucking protecting their communities with their guns? No one's doing that, okay? No one is protecting their communities with guns. People are using guns to blow shit up or for fucking drug deals and to rob liquor stores and to do drive-by shootings and school shootings, okay? That's the only thing they're doing. Zero people are using them for self-protection. Some people might think that they're for self-protection. No one is using them for self-protection except for gangs. I mean, gangs use them for self-protection. I mean, to fight the other gang. But no one else is using guns for protection. No one is doing that. I mean, it's ridiculous. like this is not the world like we live in. America has actually very low crime. It goes low. I mean, it's just like. And people are like, oh, but compared to the rest of the world, like America has fairly high crime. Yeah, because the whole world has pretty low crime. Like, no one's using guns to protect their communities. This is fucking dumb, man. Would it be hard to have a different person to orate the audiobook? I could, but I don't. I mean, I've thought about that, but I have to have two voices because there's like a male and a female voice, and kind of say it the same way. I've thought about it. I don't know. It's I could do that. I think this is the thing, man. It only makes the unarmed libs nervous. Here's the thing. It doesn't make the libs nervous. You think it makes the libs nervous. We don't fucking care. We don't fucking care about you. Like, we don't fucking care about you. This is the thing that you don't understand about libs. How much the reason the libs aren't in power is because they're too busy, like, dating and watching TV and going to fancy restaurants and fucking, okay? They don't think about politics and they don't think about you, okay? Like, they don't fucking care. The problem with libs is they don't fucking care, okay? You're not you're not owning any libs because libs don't care. You're the only one that fucking cares, okay? Like, I kind of care because, like, I'm one of the few people that actually does care about politics, but like most libs, and I'm telling you, I'm unusual. Most liberals don't fucking care. Remember, like America, half of America doesn't vote. And then of the half, you got your half libs and half conservatives, right? So people don't fucking care, man. And I mean, if you had a gun, like, do I believe that people with guns aren't scared? Let's ask that question. Who is most scared? Someone without a gun or someone with a gun? One is evidence. One is straight up evidence that you are frightened. Because if you weren't frightened, you wouldn't have gotten the gun. The people without the guns aren't scared. That's why they didn't get a gun. Because they don't fucking care. They live in a pretty safe neighborhood and the police do their job. Like, the people that are frightened are the ones with the guns. Right? Doesn't that make more sense? Mm-mm-mm. Hell yeah, bro. I have a gun to validate my manhood. I kind of knew you drove a Prius from the cadence of your voice, LOL. I mean, I guess, dude. I mean, I mean, do you need, like, I don't need my manhood validated, man. It's pretty solid. I mean, I can look down. There it is, dude. Like, I don't, like, this is the thing. Like, you think you're, like, getting me or something? Yeah, I own a Prius. You know what else? I avoid gluten and dairy, motherfucker. Yeah. Yeah. I avoid soy. So if you want to think I'm a soy boy, I'm sorry. I sit around and I talk about fantasy books. Like, do you think I'm insecure? Do you think I care about, like, my manhood? Do you think I'm watching MMA? Gotta worry about my manhood. Oh man. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Let's see here. Good morning from Europe. I want to go back to sleep. Maybe. Probably. We somehow got talking about guns. Um, Liberals, by definition, care about human rights. If you don't care about human rights, you're not a liberal. I don't know if that's by definition. I mean, liberals do tend to care more about human rights than conservatives, but it also depends on, like, what you think a right is, right? So you're gonna get in this situation where, like, um, uh, like, is owning a gun like a human right or something, versus it's gonna get complicated. Ask a conservative to walk down the street without a gun and watch him tremble. Sport that used to be, like I say, I grew up. This is the funny thing. I grew up shooting guns. Okay. Um, it's and so it's a weird thing, right? Because it was just like at camp, like, well, we had a rifle to shoot rabbits, but I also, like, went to camp, and, like, one of the things you could do at camp is, like, shoot guns and or archery, or ride horses or whatever. And it was kind of the same thing as archery. Like, you're just doing it, and that's fine, right? Like, you look, but somehow, like, in that time, it went from this thing to, like, shoot rabbits and and to have fun, like, playing darts. Like, I have no problem with darts, man. But no one is going around at parties. And I've literally been at parties where people have pulled out their phones to show their gun collections. I've never been at a party where someone's, like, pulled out, um, their phone to show their dart collection. Like, that's never happened to me. Or, there are some people that are super into archery, but I've never had someone, like, show their bows or something, at a party, or joke about how like they believe in freedom because they have fucking darts or archery. Like like how does it take that next step um, into identity politics? You know. Um, I'm going to Colombia and Peru. Any suggestions for Colombia? I know what I'm doing in Peru. Well, there's a lot to do in Peru. Oh my God. You can never run out of things to do in Peru. But for Colombia, um, I think up in the Cartagena region, that's really beautiful for beaches. Um, I went to, what is the name of it? Oh, I can't believe I've forgotten the name of the other city up there that I went to. Barranquilla. I went to some beaches around Barranquilla. And Santa Marta. I went to Santa Marta. That was really beautiful. Some people talk about wanting to go to Medellin and I've never been to Medellin, but when I was in Bogota, and I think Bogota is super interesting, but so definitely spend some time in Bogota too. But like, um, everyone said like, oh, you've got to go to Medellin because it's got the greatest parties and the most beautiful women, and everybody kept saying that over and over again. And I've never been, but like, um, it's a really weird statement to like go to a city because it has beautiful people. Um, so that was kind of, yeah, odd. But Colombia was great. The Colombians are really really friendly, and they're really laid back and fun, and the country's beautiful. I think you'll have no problem having a good time in Colombia. But most people, I think, go to beaches up in the Cartagena, like I say, Santa Marta, like kind of area. But like I say, like I had a good time in Bogota. I thought it was super interesting. But people also talk about Medellin. Never been though. Never been to Medellin. Um, yeah. Magic the Gathering lists on my phone. Oh, what? There's a Boy Gun vid released this week? What is Boy Gun? I've never heard of this. Is this Okay. Okay. This is all right. This is all right. The minute I search for it in YouTube, okay, that's pretty funny. That's very very funny. Oh man. Yeah. Yeah, Santa Martha was I just it was just really really beautiful area place. Have you ever been to Germany? I lived in Germany for 3 years. I lived in Frankfurt for 3 years. But yeah, I've been to a lot of places in Germany. Um, um, to take too long to list them all now, but big fan of Germany. Um, oh yeah, Ciudad de Perida hike near Santa Marta. Kick your ass, but it's worth it. It's like Machu Picchu. Oh, interesting. Machu Picchu actually is an ass kicker. because of if you go in, um, and you get altitude sickness at Cusco, and then you're done. You can't do anything. Oh, here we go. Medellin was my favorite part. Beautiful city and lots of stuff to do. Oh, go to Guadalajara for a day. Yeah, I mean, I spent 3 weeks in Colombia, like, a long time ago, probably over 10 years ago. But 3 weeks just blew by. Because again, you're like, I guess on the beach, so it goes away. Pull a rotatrice and do it all yourself. This is for the voices for Ghosts and Indians. Yeah, that's the thing is, it is hard because there are some voices in it, and I could do them all. Like, but then I don't have rotatrice's like talents, as you all know. Like, I essentially have my Dario, my Stannis, and variations on Dario and Stannis. They sell bottles of oxygen now. Oh man, everything gets ruined. Oh man, everything gets ruined. Everything gets ruined these days. All right. Hey, Carmine, are you around? Are you gonna call in at all? I'm about to head to bed then. If you don't call in. Mm-mm-mm. Um, oh yeah, it's crazy to cross the border with Peru. So it's funny because of course when I grew up, Colombia was dangerous, off limits, and then all of a sudden got safe, and then became the backpacker place to go because it was so cheap and it was opening up. But it was still when I went there, it was still like certain bus routes you shouldn't take and certain ones were fine. And then as time went on, like people were like, no, 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 that one's safe by bus now. Like, and they would you add more. And so now most of Colombia is pretty safe. Right. And so, it's, yeah, uh, so it was, I think I don't remember. Did I fly all the way to the north? I must have. I don't remember I don't remember taking long buses, but maybe I did. But yeah, I've never been to northern Peru. I've only been to southern Peru, like up to Lima. So I've been to like Arequipa and Puno, Titicaca, Cusco, Nazca, like that kind of area. But I've never been to the north. I don't understand how, like, I don't know Ethan Klein's positions, so I don't know if I can be like aligned with them. I gave a pretty specific outcome of like what I wanted in the Middle East. So I'd be very surprised if he had the exact same one about, but you know, maybe. Did I drink coca tea? I did not, because I just didn't want to have security clearance situations be screwed up. But I didn't try coca tea. Um, LOL. Are you around? You calling in? I've got like 15 minutes. I'll give you 15 minutes, Carmine. Hassan was comparing a Houthi pirate to Anne Frank? Uh, uh. I mean, here, I'm not going to. First of all, here's my split. Okay, I'm not going to defend the Houthis. Okay, I'm not defending the Houthis. Oh, my guess thing is off. Really? Let me try this again. How is this possible? It says it says it says it's on. Oh well. He's saying my guest thing is off for some reason, but won't let you join. Need me to get let me see. I'll resend you the link, but yeah, maybe it's not going to work if and I'll just have to that. That's not what happened. Ethan is the one that made the comparison. Ethan believes in the two-state solution. Yeah, okay. I have a clip of his son literally saying this. I don't think the resisting Filipino cargo ship is the way to resist Israel. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna take the strong position that I am anti taking hostages. Um, oh. Mm. Ah, well. I guess yes, karma. These are these things is that like somehow we're in this day and age that we have to be like I'm anti-terrorism. Also, anti-terrible talking points. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. Here's the thing: is that like it's a little but like it's like I like to say that Israel Palestine is it's simpler than people try to make it out to be, but it's also like not that simple. But um, but yeah, the one thing to remember is that yes, absolutely, the region is filled with some very horrible terrorist groups. And yeah, the Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, um, you know, they're not great, not great organizations, not great, not great. I'm not saying that the government of Israel is a bunch of saints. I'm not even saying that the Palestinian Authority is a bunch of saints. But the yeah, it's pretty easy to take an anti-terrorism position. I mean, the thing about Hassan is that he has such a large following, um, and so he can affect a lot of change if he sends out the right message, you know. And so it's like in general I don't like left on left warfare. Like I think it's the reason why um, Kamala lost. That we have really great candidates, we have really great people and we have the correct policies, and we just need left wingers to stop attacking each other and being holier than thou, and having these purity checks, and like for instance, everyone demand like even this action, everyone demanding that people call Hassan Piker a moron. Like he can have a bad take. He can have a bad take on Ukraine. He can have a bad take on Houthis, whatever. But like you can kind of say that like okay, is 98% of his views like correct? Yeah, they are. 98%. I disagree with him on Ukraine. I take a I mean, I'm I'm very Palestinian sympathizing, but I'm not quite at his degree of in his positions. But like, it's a waste of time, like, to attack the left. Like, the left attacking the left is just a waste of time. It's damaging. It's why we're in this situation. Because the right doesn't do this. Like, no candidate is bad enough for the right. They will vote for whoever. Um, while we just sit there and just like trash each other. Like, oh, we align on 98% of things, but not those two. You're a horrible person. You're a moron. Um, and so that's my big problem. Yeah. Ethan literally said he supports the Palestinians in his video, made it clear. Okay. I mean, that's the thing, is I don't actually know anything about Ethan Klein's position. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if, like, Hassan, if he discouraged people, and people have said that he discouraged people from voting Kamala, but then I've seen other ones where he supports voting Kamala. So I'm a little confused on that position. Um, People say this, but I don't know if I saw that. Like, I think he might have said that, like, something strange, like everyone else should vote for Kamala, but I'm not going to. But I live in California anyway, or something. Um, it gets confusing, and like I say, then there's hearsay of what people say about stuff. But yeah, I do believe that, like, I do agree that, like, the left just devours itself, and in a circular firing squad, and that somehow we're sitting here talking about, like, a left-wing person having an argument with another left-wing person, and which person I should support, which person is an idiot, when we should be saying we all agree on 98% of things. Let's unite and vote for some Democrats and get you know get the country, like, in a stable position, get rights back for people. But um, seriously, I can't even get, like, a right, like, on any of this. Like, I'm getting back and forth. Like, everyone seems to believe completely contradictory things about the same characters. Yeah, I do agree that, like, people need to stop shitting on Dems, and start saying, like, the great policies that they support, and, like, be positive about them. But it's nonstop. Like, they're not doing enough. They're not doing enough. What weak bastards? What da, da, da. Like, just fucking stop. Like, you're it's all they're doing. They need to focus on just, you trashing the right and supporting the left. Um, Hassan believes in a one-state solution with the dissolution of Israel. For a guy who's allegedly anti-genocide, he sure does encourage circumstances that would cause it. So the problem is, I think, with this statement is when people talk about the dissolution of Israel, it all depends on, like, one can take somebody's words and twist them on this. So, for instance, I believe that there should be no religious states. That there should not be Muslim countries, there should not be Christian countries, there should not be Jewish countries. Okay, that's my belief. Now, you could twist that and be like, well, wait a minute, Israel's a Jewish state, so you're saying that you want the dissolution of Israel. Like, you can twist my words to say that, but that's not really what I said. Like, I'm for the existence of Israel, but I don't think it should be a religious state. It's the same. I don't think Egypt should be a Muslim state. I don't think Palestine should be a Muslim state. I don't think Syria, like, all of that is true for me, but you can turn it, right? By what your definition of Israel is. So to say that like Hassan believes that like the dissolution of Israel, I think he probably means he's against a religious state of Israel. If you asked him like, and for everyone to have equal rights, and I know he believes in like full right of return for all the refugees, and things like that. And someone would say, well, if you believe in full right of return for all the refugees, you must mean the end of Israel, because that would be the end of Israel. Because you're talking like 7 million Palestinian refugees. They would outnumber the Jews, and therefore it wouldn't be a Jewish state anymore. And therefore you're against the dissolution of Israel, right? There's ways to like twist everything when people talk about this issue to like paint people in a certain way. But when you actually like sit down with people and actually say like, well, wait a minute, you believe in equal rights and freedom of religion, and you actually find that people don't actually disagree that much. But if it's framed in a certain fashion, you can of course like portray it as something. Because then once you say like, okay, if you're for, here's where you can take these like lines of logic. Say you're for full right of return. Well, full right of return would mean Muslim majority in Israel. And a Muslim majority in Israel would mean no more Jewish state. And no more Jewish state would mean dissolution of Israel, because Israel by definition is a Jewish state. Therefore, you're for destruction of Israel. Like, do you see how you can like twist the words each step and say like, oh, I'm for right of return. Oh, you're for the destruction of Israel. Like, So it's just, be careful when you like put all this stuff in people's mouths, because like what they actually believe is specific. Kamala was bad on Gaza and single-handedly makes her bad. I don't think Kamala had any policy on Gaza. I don't think, and even if you're extending it to Biden, it was no different from. This is what gets me about the fucking bashing Biden and Kamala on fucking Gaza. Okay, I've been around a long fucking time. Okay, and I've been sympathizing with Palestinians for a long fucking time. And let me tell you this. Okay, Israel has been beating up on Palestinians a long fucking time. My entire goddamn life. Okay? And here's the period of time where Israel has been bashing Palestinians. And here is the period of time as well that no one gave a fuck. No one gave a fuck. Then all of a sudden, right when it's election time for Biden Kamala, right when it's election time, all of a sudden, people fucking care about Gaza. And then the minute Kamala doesn't get elected, they go right back to not giving a fuck. Okay? So when people sit there and talk about like Gaza, like they've been caring about the Palestinians this whole fucking time, I just call bullshit. You didn't fucking care the fucking decades that Israel's been beating up on the Palestinians, or the minute the election was over, you see, like they've all fucking forgotten, like as if Israel suddenly fucking stopped beating up on the Palestinians. Okay, like this tiny little sliver of time, you're like, this is my number one issue, therefore I'm not gonna fucking vote for Kamala. Bull fucking shit. You never like. You fucking like cared this one little sliver of fucking time. And who's been bashing Trump over? Who's been bashing Trump over like Israel? Nobody. Who's been bashing Trump before over Israel? Nobody. Who was bashing Obama and W and Clinton and Bush 1 and Reagan and Carter? No, like, no, nobody. You didn't fucking care. You didn't fucking care. And then all of a sudden you fucking cared for one goddamn day to not vote. And then you went back to not to not fucking caring. It's fucking bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. You never fucking cared about Palestinians. You never fucking cared. You don't care now. You fucking cared because you're virtue signaling. There is no fucking difference between any policy that Kamala Harris had compared to any president before her. In fact, her policy on Palestinians was better than Trump's, because Trump was against the two-state solution. But like, you know, Trump provided weapons to Israel. Obama provided weapons to Israel. Bush provided weapons to Israel. Clinton provided weapons to Israel. Like Congress, both branches provided weapons to Israel. Like all of them. And they've been using them, and they've been beating up on Palestinians and stealing their land for decades, for fucking decades, and brutalizing them every fucking day for decades. Like, my God. And then all of a sudden you fucking care. All of a sudden you fucking care for this one fucking day. Oh, when somehow Trump needs to get elected, like you suddenly fucking care about Gaza. Bull fucking shit. Oh man. What the fuck are you going on about? A dem going crazy? I don't know. The fucking. I thought this was an ASOF channel. Yeah, we talk about whatever, dude. Are you trying to get banned? Jesus Christ, dude. Come right in here. You want world's fastest band? Jesus Christ. Listen, man, how else can I feel morally superior? Exactly. That's true. He's not even American, doesn't give a fuck. It's not his sacrifice. Exactly. I mean, Israel doesn't control our government, but they have a lobby, and the Palestinians don't have a lobby. So when you're faced with one group that has a lobby and the other that doesn't, like a politician will always win taking one position when the other position doesn't like affect, like people don't vote over that. Like, and that, when I say it's like a fake issue, like people have never voted over Palestine. They will never vote over Palestine. It was a fake thing that was made up, like all of a sudden to be hip for like a day. You know, it's, oh yeah. Could I imagine if Obama had 100 days like Trump? Oh my God, like whatever. How rare to see this stream in Europe. I know. It's gone on that long. Yes, of course. That's the thing is like, and this is the thing is that like the standards that people have for the fucking Dems, like no Dem is good enough. No fucking Dem is good enough. Like Trump can literally fucking deport US citizens with cancer, suspend habeas corpus, like put up tariffs, crash the economy. Like I had motherfuckers in here like right after the election that were like, you know, I really thought Preston would be humbled by the fact that like people were voting for a better economy. Like Biden's economy was off the wall booming. And are they in here apologizing, being like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, Trump just fucking ruined the economy. He lied to us. Like, no. Like it turns out they weren't voting for the economy. They were just, I don't know what people vote for anymore. Of course I'd take Anthony Weiner as president. I'd take fucking anybody as president at this point over Trump. That's the thing. Bernie is good enough. I like Bernie. He's fine. But I'm not going to like trash everybody else for liking Bernie. Like the problem with people that like Bernie is that they is the ones that trash. I mean, and the people that like Bernie, like, okay, look, nearly all of them voted for Hillary and nearly all of them voted for Biden. Don't get me wrong. But there were those Bernie bros who like made up lies about like Hillary stealing the election or Biden stealing the election from him and shit like that. Like, oh my God. It's just, you know, um, I can see Obama. Oh, so this guy, Colin, so the joke here is that you think Obama is gay and being gay is funny and insulting. Is that your joke? Is that like the whole joke? Like Obama is gay? Is that the joke? Being gay is bad and funny? Is that the joke? I don't know. What are you saying? What are you saying? That's the thing is I don't know why he's thinking about Obama with 25 men. I'm asking him to explain himself. I would get no votes. I would get like I would be so bad. Uh-huh. So why are you bringing that up? Why is it important? I don't think he's gay, but who cares? But why? Like why are you bringing that up? You think you think Obama rapes men? Is that what you're talking about? Because that was like the context, right? It was about Trump raping, sexually assaulting 25 women. You think Obama sexually assaults men? And this is weird. I don't know what you're going with, Colin. So you think being gay is bad? What is it? Like, what's the insult? Man, 100th Arthur Danes versus a gorilla. Well, let's see. Um, yeah. No voting system is perfect. We just need an improvement. We just need not to elect Republicans ever again. Ever fucking again. Yeah, I think he thinks this is probably it. I think he thinks being gay is bad and worse than being a violent misogynist and pedo like Trump. Well, Trump is he said some weird. I mean, he's definitely a misogynist and a sexual assaulter. I don't know if he's technically a pedo, but he has said some weird stuff about his daughter. Um, does he have the sword in the fight? That's the thing. So you're thinking that if Arthur Dayne doesn't have a sword, he's just like completely inept, and he like the gorilla would just like kill 100 versions of him. If he was 100 of them, he might be. See, in reality, there's 100 of them. He'd be so shocked by the fact that there's 99 clones of him that he's not paying attention, and the fucking gorilla kills him. Man, oh man, this is the weirdest ending for a stream I think I've ever had. certainly not like, I wouldn't call this administration actual Republican. I mean, certainly not in the sense that like Barry Goldwater kind of stuff. But they haven't really had any beliefs in a while, actual beliefs. Once Trump implodes, the Republicans will pretend they never supported him. I mean, so I've been waiting for that. We've been waiting for that since he was running for president in 2015, right? Or 2016, 26. Well, he started in 2015, I guess. But man, oh man. I told my friend there's a character in the books named Darkstar, and he started laughing his ass off. Ah, yes, the Dane family, Arthur Eddard Darkstar. He doesn't stand out at all. You told him it was a nickname, right? His name's Gerald. But I suppose if I had the name Gerald, I might have a nickname. Mm-mm. The left needs more animals versus animals discussion. Rogan left to avoid. Um, how's the digits? Nah, I mean the digits are just the same. I mean I've tried to do what they've done in physical therapy or something, trying to move, but it's just it just doesn't move at all. I mean, like in general, my hand has more like movement. Like I can make a fist faster and things like that and stuff like that. But like it's still like the pinky doesn't bend, but it seems to fit like in my hand more. I mean, I still can't like play guitar and stuff, but you know, it's it's fine. It's fine. It'll be the rest of my life. But do what I can. Do what I can. Um, I want to talk about why you didn't include Asha being in on the night lamp theory you believe the Theon sample chapter was setting up. I don't think I mean, keep in mind that like when I did the going over Theon, like that was what 8 years ago. So like put that in mind. But I don't think like going back to that video, um, I believe that she was in on the night lamp. I think she was in on the idea of the fake execution. That she knew that Theon was was. I mean, I see where you're going with this. If she knew about the execution, but why would she choose the heart tree? That would be like a coincidence. Um, I see. Okay, I see what you're saying here. Okay, so I thought she was in on that. She knew that Stannis wouldn't really execute Theon because he's too valuable, and so she's calling his bluff. And she's like, "Okay, if you're gonna execute him, don't do something stupid like like just burn him, like cut off his head to please all of the Northerners. Go out to the tree and do that." But then that would be a coincidence that she chose the tree as a focal point because then everybody has to pass over the lake. So it could be that she just like got lucky when she said go out to the heart tree, and it happened to be in the middle of the night lamp theory, or it could be that she figured out the night lamp, but because she saw all the digging of the holes and she's like, oh, he's going to have everybody fall through the lake. But I think it's just maybe more of a coincidence that she was like, you're not going to execute him, but if you do, like, do it in front of that heart tree because that'll make the people like you. Because she knows that they're going to switch out Arnulf Karstark, and that she just coincidentally fell into the middle of the night lamp. Um, yeah, because had she figured out everything, she wouldn't have gone near the lake, obviously, and told all of her friends not to go near the lake because she knew the crack would happen. But if you're going to do that, then there's like no surprise in the chapter. You know, you want her to have a surprise too. My name is Gerald. Francis Dane. When he says men named him Darkstar, he means himself and a guy he paid to do it. I mean, he does like own a keep, so he does have like feudal, he does have like underlings, right? He's got vassals. So he like tells the vassals, he's like, look guys, you don't actually have to pay me any taxes, but you have to call me Darkstar. Oh, what happened to my hand? I was playing basketball and some assholes being too rough, and he just like swatted the ball, and it just like that people were going for. He just swatted it, and it like sent my pinky digit back and broke it. And like it was one of those situations where I was like, I couldn't tell if it was sprained or if it was broken, and then it was right before COVID. I couldn't go to the hospital because it was COVID, and then when I finally did go to the hospital, she's like, we can't really do it. I mean, when I went to somebody like who specialized in like hands and stuff, she was like, yeah, there's nothing really can be done. Like, and I was like, okay. And I was like, had I gotten her earlier? And she's like, I don't know. I don't think so. So I don't know. So. Oh. 40 days of owed service to their lord and to spread the nickname Darkstar. So yes, 40 days. By the way, in medieval times, like it was often that your feudal obligation was for 40 days. This is actually something that George R. Martin doesn't kind of know about because he taught like it's never come up, right, that people's feudal obligation is up, right? Like he has like the Siege of Storm's End lasting a year, so everybody. So either they're rotating their dudes like perfectly, or they don't have the 40-day feudal service law in Westeros or something. It's got to be something, Preston with his Marillion injury. That's right. If people are like, oh, Preston's left hand is some great fingers. My mate got his fingers caught in the braces. Oh my god, had his finger degloved. Oh, that's gross. I read once about Jimmy Fallon had his finger degloved from his wedding ring. That's disgusting, man. They likely have it, but they pay for it after 40 days. That's very expensive, right? That like paying for these people for a year. Oh man, I guess they're so rich they can just do it. We never hear about it though. I got a lot of thoughts on Euron. That's going to take too long. Oh man, gentlemen. Okay, I think I've been here 4 hours, so I think we've been through the cycle. Been through the cycle of some crazy shit. I'm sorry that my interview didn't work tonight, Carmine, but thanks for being with us. And I will see you guys next week. Thanks for watching, guys.